Chapter 366. The players missed William very much. One day without him felt like 3 years. When the prince appeared in the city of Dawn again, the players who heard the news rushed over and looked at him like a panda. They hoped that he would give them some bamboo so that they could gain some experience and equipment. It was a pity that the city lord had just returned home. Before he could come up with a mission to cheat the players and earn money, he walked out of the crowd with an arrogant expression. Prince William has changed. He's no longer the little elf who fooled us all day and did missions for him. A player sighed. Yes, from a young wild elf, he has become a real elfin prince. Fortunately, I didn't quit the camp in the second game version. A player laughed and said, "You make it sound as if the others had left." Back then, Prince William had changed our worldview in many ways. He had given us S-level missions both inland and overseas. None of my friends left the city of Dawn. Yes, but they must be regretting it now. Didn't you see the new rule of the Dawn mercenary team? The chosen ones who quit will never be hired again. Although His Royal Highness did not give out quests, many idle players still decided to follow behind him. Even if he did not give out quests, they could still pick up a few pieces of equipment or dozens of gold coins if he randomly threw them out. It was a coincidence. William was in a good mood after slaying the dragon. The frost dragon was huge and had a lot of health points. He obtained 611 portions of dragon blood in a dragon slaying instance dungeon. That was right. There was another dragon slaying instance dungeon. Although he was not as strong as the dragon slayer, his damage output was the highest. At most, he could not increase his dragon slayer title, but he obtained experience, gold coins, and the dragon slaying instance dungeon crystal. Without a doubt, the instance dungeon crystal was a nightmarish instance dungeon for the players. If they entered, they would become ice sculptures. It was impossible for them to obtain dragon blood and dragon scales like the fire dragon instance dungeon. But William did not like the number of 611 portions of dragon blood. He decided to sell 11 portions of dragon blood to the players. Thus, he glanced at the players and used insight one by one. Very quickly, he chose an ice mage player. This player's equipment was very ordinary. He had a silver magic robe, a silver magic hat, shoes, and so on. He only had a golden ice magic staff. In the current Dawnlight City, he was practically a pauper. However, this player's contribution to the Dawn mercenary team was very high. He even held an elite position in the mercenary team. At first glance, it was obvious that he was the kind of honest player who did not use contribution points to exchange for equipment. Then it's you. I like honest people. Ding dong. The player named Frost Mage suddenly heard a notification. Prompt. Young mage loyal to the Dawn mercenary team. You are in luck today. You have received a strange encounter mission. Prompt. Use all your skills in front of the leader of the Dawn mercenary team. You will receive an unexpected reward. Am I blind or deaf? There's such a thing in a strange encounter mission. The ice mage asked 3 questions in a row, but when he glanced at the prince and saw his gaze, he knew that he had indeed received a miracle quest. So he hurriedly shouted, "Excuse me, excuse me. His Highness has given me a quest. I want to show him a set of skills." What? Why didn't we receive it? Damn, didn't you hear him? This is a strange encounter mission. What a F***king lucky bastard. Let's see what this miracle quest can give. Maybe Her Highness found an ice element performer because the weather has been too hot recently. She wants him to throw some icicles at her to cool her down. Maybe His Highness will tip him a few gold coins and ask him to scram. Many players laughed in disdain. They did not think that Wong Bapi was a good person who would give them treasures in a strange encounter mission. However, everyone still spread out a certain distance to give the ice mage enough space to cast his spell. After all, magical-type professionals also had human rights to sell their artists. An intermediate ice magician. What else could he do? It was really nothing much. Magic professionals who had not reached the advanced level were the younger brothers. Grandmasters could become the older brothers. When they reached the epic level and possessed forbidden spells, they could become grandmasters. Of course, except for those who were rich. No matter what profession they played, they would be a big shot. The ice mage walked in front of William and bowed respectfully. Then he said, "Your Highness, shall I start the fight now?" "Yes." "Do you need to find an opponent for me?" William was expressionless. Did he want to show off his equipment, occupation, and skills? When the Ice Mage saw the change in William's expression, he stopped being arrogant. He threw his skills into the air. Icicles, ice walls, ice arrows, ice shields, ice balls. Basically, they were the kind of skills that could not cause too much damage to the enemy. If the skills did not hit the enemy, the caster would console himself. Anyway, it was useless. If he could not hit the enemy, then so be it. After a set of skills, William felt a slight cooling sensation, but it immediately dissipated. The difference between him and the Ice-type professionals in the extreme north was huge. But he still patted the shoulder of the Ice Mage and said with a serious expression, "You're a little weak. When did you become an elite member of the mercenary team?" The Ice Mage stretched out 2 fingers and swallowed his saliva. 2 months ago. How can you be an elite member with your current strength?" William's expression gradually became serious. The Ice Mage was about to cry. He did not expect that he would lose the position that he had worked so hard to exchange for. He did not even get many benefits. But just when everyone was about to laugh at him, William suddenly took out a jar of cold dragon blood. He smiled and placed it in the hands of the Ice Mage. "Although you're weak and your strength does not match the combat power of an elite member, I admire your conscientious and hard-working attitude for the mercenary team. The Dawn mercenary team needs elite members like you. After all, combat power does not represent everything. I think you understand, and so do I. This is the dragon blood of the frost dragon that I obtained in the extreme north. Take it, use it, and become stronger in the future." This is for me?" The Ice Mage was bewildered. Even the other players were bewildered. This was a jar of dragon blood. How could he give it away for free? Gosh, was this the legendary strange encounter mission? Was the reward that insane? Even the reward for an S-level mission was not that good. The Ice Mage was an honest person, but it did not mean that he was stupid. He immediately accepted the jar of dragon blood and looked up at William with a fawning expression. "Prince William, did you slay a dragon again?" "Yes." William nodded nonchalantly. He smiled and said, "On my way home, I slayed one." At this moment, the players fawned over the jar and rushed forward. They shouted, "Prince William, are you selling it? Prince William, are you selling it?" William was expressionless. "I'm not selling it. I'm selling dragon scales, dragon blood, and dragon meat. But I'm not selling my body. Can you please finish your sentence?" In short, William noticed that the players were getting excited. There was also news of him slaying a dragon on the forum. He gestured with his hand and said in a deep voice, "I still have 10 portions of dragon blood of the frost dragon for sale. The highest bidder will get it. You can check the exchange list of the Dawn mercenary team." When the players heard this, many ice warriors and mages immediately refreshed the exchange list. 10 portions of dragon blood. All of them were placed in front of them. The minimum price for each portion was 100,000 gold coins. You could bid now. 48 hours later, the highest bidder would get it. Prompt: this cannot be resold. Violators will be expelled and will be permanently hunted down by the Dawn mercenary team. When they saw this scene, many players were about to cry. The Ice-type professions, in particular, wished they could hug the prince and kiss him a few times. What was this? This was a benefit for the Ice professionals. It was to prevent the rich players from bidding too hard and hoarding the goods. In particular, the starting bid of 100,000 gold coins was enough to make the players go crazy with excitement. This was simply a huge loss for His Royal Highness. The dragon crystal could make professionals bathe in dragon blood, become dragon speakers, and dragon followers. The most important thing was Prince William discovered a little secret. Moses seemed to like shiny things. He did not use the fire dragon crystal much, but he liked to display it. Even if it was used as a decoration, he liked to display it. "No problem. I'll give it to you. I'm rich." William narrowed his eyes and strode to the fortune-telling shop. Chapter 367. The entrance of the fortune-telling shop was still deserted. The players had long since given up on the legendary boss who rarely showed his face. Although the players could be bootlickers and make themselves and the NPCs happy. If they did not even have a chance to meet Moses, they could not just wait at the entrance. In addition, there was a team of players who took turns to wait. They discovered that Moses had not left his house for a month. He was a complete homebody, and the players did not even have a chance to bootlick him. Of course, they also discovered a secret. It was that William often visited the fortune-telling shop when he had nothing to do. Hence, there were a few posts on the forum. They were titled The Mysterious PY Story of Prince William and the Fortune-Telling Shop Owner. Some people were still updating the story of the two of them, but William had recorded the names of the players who posted the posts in his notebook. He was sure that those players who gossiped would not be able to obtain a single piece of epic equipment in their lifetime. Even if his mercenary contribution points were maxed out, he would find an excuse that he did not have any epic equipment. That was right. He was that capricious. William pushed open the door. Moses was sitting on a chair and hugging his cat in a daze. When he saw William enter, he straightened his posture and coughed. He said in a magnetic voice, "It's only been a few days, and you've returned from the extreme north? Oh, it's all thanks to your teleportation scroll. If not, we would have died in the hands of the legendary Great Dragon. But I did kill a great frost dragon. This dragon crystal is for you." William did not ask if Moses accepted the crystal. He slammed the snow-white dragon crystal on the table. As expected, Moses' eyes lit up. It was like a great dragon seeing a gold coin or a woman seeing a diamond. It was the same type of gaze. Moses held the crystal in his hand and did not admire it. He coughed and said, "I'll accept the dragon crystal. It's very useful for my magic research. You'll need to transform many dragons, blood warriors. Let me know when the time comes." "Okay." William smiled and nodded. He turned and was about to leave. But when he reached the door, he suddenly turned his head and asked, "Do you like the dragon crystal?" When Moses saw him turn his head again, he hurriedly made a concealment gesture and pretended that he was flipping through a book and not admiring the dragon crystal. He casually said, "Yes, I like bright ones." "Oh, it's bright. Cough. I mean a bright. Dragon crystal is fine. Actually, dragon crystals are a key tool to decipher draconic magic. I don't want to come into contact with draconic magic by bathing in dragon blood. However, the dragon crystal is also an important medium. Without the dragon crystal, the dragon race would not be able to use the dragon language magic." Moses suddenly explained a lot, trying to deny that he liked shiny things. However, William pretended not to understand and said, "I understand. In the future, I will collect all the dragon crystals of the great dragons. Won't that be enough? When the time comes, all kinds of colorful dragon crystals will be placed in your alternate dimension for you to study." Finished. The prince ignored Moses, who was lost in his reverie. Then, he left with a brisk pace. It had to be said, William seemed to understand something. After all, he had been with Moses for many years, and he had some understanding of him. Spirit silk gloves are extremely feminine gloves. Moses made them too quickly, and they did not look like they were just made. He must have worn them in the past. But why does a man like these feminine gloves? Is he the reincarnation of a god? I really hate the master of magic who is a male. He approves of the goddess of magic from the mythological era. He even has an illusion of empathy. No, perhaps it is not an illusion. Perhaps William could not help but grin. He did not know what to say anymore. Anyway, he was now extremely impressed with the lord of the magic sanctuary. This warlock saint should be like the other sages. He had the heart to control the reincarnation of a god. He should also know who Moses was, but he still wanted to groom him to become the body of the Lord of Magic. TSK. He was really daring. But he had failed. He had failed. Even though he had cursed Moses, he had escaped long ago. So, the reason why the warlock saint of the magic sanctuary has been quiet for so many years is because he is afraid of revenge. William stroked his chin. He finally understood a problem. The magic sanctuary was one of the 4 top powers in the legendary continent. But in the past 8 or 9 years, not only had their development slowed, but their power had also shrunk. They were probably afraid that Moses would secretly take revenge. After all, in William's memory, Moses resisted the magic sanctuary for many years until he disappeared without a trace. No one knew if he was dead or alive. Only then did the magic sanctuary develop with great fanfare. It was also at that time that the four great factions became what they should be. In that case, I have to increase the affinity of Moses. William glanced at the notification of the affinity points. It was 961 points. Sigh. Facing a big boss like Moses, the affinity points increased very slowly after 900 points. A dragon crystal could only increase the affinity points by 10 points. It was no longer like when a fire dragon crystal could increase the affinity points by 100 points. He did not know how many treasures he had to give to increase the affinity points to 1,000 points. But William rubbed his hands. He was still looking forward to seeing if Moses would tell him some big secret after he had earned 1,000 points. William still had 3 months to solve the problems in the Emerald Grand Duchy and Lanyu Grand Duchy. But now was not the time to be anxious. He would do it in the next few days. In the central square of the City of Dawn, another Dragon's Blood Warrior transformation ceremony was held. A total of 600 human ice warriors and mages were chosen. Among these 600 people, only 13 had advanced bloodlines. The rest were intermediate professionals. They would bathe in ordinary epic dragon's blood to strengthen their bloodlines, bodies, and souls. However, with Moses using the dragon crystal, the conversion rate was so good that it couldn't be any better. All 600 people had succeeded. Among them, 238 had attained advanced bloodlines. 312 had attained Grandmaster bloodlines. The remaining 50 had all stepped into the epic bloodline. Half of them had even become stronger dragon speakers instead of dragon followers. In one sentence, it was extremely powerful. The effect was much better than the fire dragon's blood. Although the fire dragon had a legendary bloodline, its rank was relatively low. On the other hand, even though the frost dragon was a weakling, its rank and bloodline were very high. It was much more powerful than those professions. When the players saw this scene, they were dumbfounded. They finally realized that bosses could also be produced in bulk. But the stronger the City of Dawn, the more confidence the players had in staying here. Until now, William had 300 Fire Element Dragon's Blood Professionals, 500 Water Element Dragon's Blood Professionals, and 600 Ice Element Dragon's Blood Professionals. Now, there were 1,400 Dragons Blood Warriors. It was half the number of a legion, but in terms of quality, it was simply frightening. Among these 1,400 people, the lowest bloodline was advanced. More than half of them were Grandmaster, and nearly 100 of them were epic. What did this mean? This was a super legion. Just these 1,400 people were comparable to a 100,000 ordinary human army. This was not a joke. He was truly powerful to such an extent. As for the dragon scales of the giant frost dragon, they would be made into equipment for these 600 people. William would also give them epic and legendary manuals. Anyway, William would always think of ways to make his loyal warriors stronger. Within the Dawn Army, William would never be stingy with things like secret manuals because he could see the loyalty of these warriors. As long as they had more than 800 points, as long as their bloodline was qualified, then they could learn the epic and legendary secret manuals for free. At most, they would not be allowed to spread them. These 600 people, they were bathed in dragon blood. They were wearing dragon scale armor. They were wielding the sharp claws and teeth of the giant frost dragon. In this way, the dragon's blood warriors would be equipped with matching equipment and bloodline, and they would be able to unleash more power. When William saw that the dragon's blood legion had reached half its size, he wanted to slay the dragon again. Because the City of Dawn was still considered a small power. When the City of Dawn became more and more powerful, it would be difficult for him to slay a dragon again after the legendary Great Dragon took notice of it. Even if he killed an evil dragon, those legendary tier dragons would suddenly appear and erase the effects of the dragon's blood, making it impossible for him to mass-produce dragon blood warriors. At most, he would be able to bring back dragon scales, dragon meat, and dragon crystals. Let's put it this way. Dragon's blood was the most precious strategic resource. This was one of the ways that the dragons targeted the human empires to mass-produce Dragon's Blood Legion. Other things could only temporarily increase combat power. but the dragon's blood could permanently increase combat power. Its value was incomparable. Hence, when William looked at the Emerald Grand Duchy, he suddenly shifted his gaze. Nightmare Forest. In this forest, besides the hidden dark city, there were many giant dragons. There were also many giant dragons. Then, when I deal with the vampires, I can kill a few giant dragons in the Nightmare Forest. William narrowed his eyes. There were no human empires in the southern region. There were very few legendary dragons. Even if there were, they were paying attention to the dragon-slaying teams of the human empires. They would not take William seriously. I have to make good use of this opportunity. At least, I have to gather a legion of dragons, blood warriors. If I can do that, I'll be able to shine in the battle at the extreme north in 3 months. I'll be able to choose some treasures from the battle points exchange list. William grinned. He had to take the opportunity to kill a few more dragons. Otherwise, in a few years, when a large-scale plot of the dragon race's chaos appeared, it would not be easy to find dragons to kill. And the root cause of the dragon race's chaos. It was because the human empires were secretly hunting giant dragons to create dragons' blood warriors. In the future, there will be a 10-year blood war, the dragon race's chaos, the arrival of the Sky City, and other large-scale plot missions. It's too shocking. It's exciting just thinking about it. The prince took a deep breath. Only by becoming stronger would he be able to obtain enough benefits from these familiar plot quests. Chapter 368. William wanted to deal with the vampires of the Emerald Grand Duchy and Lanyu Grand Duchy. Most importantly, he wanted the blood essence of the blood dragon to feed his shabby dragon. If there were no accidents, that blood dragon's blood essence should be of legendary or saint quality. After Little Rotten Dragon ate it, it would definitely become a powerful Little Rotten Dragon in a short period of time. On the other hand, the Red Fire Kingdom also wanted to act against the two kingdoms. For what they said, it seemed to be because of some personal grudges. But William knew that the Red Fire Kingdom did not like the vampires. They wanted to use various reasons to annex the two nations. The two of them were allies to begin with, and the Red Fire Kingdom was considered the big boss. If the big boss ate the meat, he would at least get some soup. Hence, the City of Dawn and the Red Fire Kingdom hit it off. At William's signal, the Red Fire Kingdom had given the Dawn mercenary team a mission. They were searching for Brian Scarlet Flame, the son of the Marquis of the Red Fire Kingdom, who had been lost in Nightmare Forest. S-rank mission. There was nothing wrong with that. Brian was the fellow who had been brothers with William and the others. Of course, he didn't really disappear. However, in recent days, he had indeed wandered around the Emerald Grand Duchy and Lanyu Grand Duchy and entered the Nightmare Forest under the watchful eyes of many people. In the end, he's missing. Back home. However, there were many rumors that clearly indicated that he was abducted by the vampires. There are also many people spreading the news that there were many vampires in the Emerald Grand Duchy and Lanyu Grand Duchy. Some of the nobles were vampires. It seemed that the vampires from these two countries had kidnapped Brian Scarlet Flame. This kind of news suddenly spread. All of a sudden, these vampires couldn't sit still. Their hearts were as clear as a mirror. Although Brian Scarlet Flame was the son of a marquis, he was someone who could sit on the throne of a kingdom. How could they dare to capture him? Provoking a kingdom-level power for no reason. Wasn't that just courting death? However, there must be a reason why public opinion spread so quickly in his own country. Therefore, the high-level vampires of the two countries began to follow the clues. The unexpected thing was they also caught some of the people who spread the news. And this group of people used an extremely sincere performance to point the spearhead at the Dark City, Lanyu, and Jadeite countries. All of a sudden, all sorts of conspiracies and rules were in a mess, making it impossible to find the source of the truth. The three of them felt that they had been cheated. However, these three forces could only say that they had not abducted Brian Scarlet Flame. They did not believe the words of the other two forces. And everything. These were all missions that the Red Fire Kingdom had secretly arranged through Death Warriors. The Red Fire Kingdom had long known about the grudges between the two vampire kingdoms and Dark City, as well as the mutual distrust between them. Then he would muddy the waters. The Red Fire Kingdom was setting up a bewildering formation. The Jadeite Grand Duchy's Death Warriors were throwing the blame at Lanyu and Dark City. The Deathsworn in Lanyu Grand Duchy blamed it on Jadeite and Dark City. There was no need for Death Warriors in Darkness City. They were born to be a pool of black water. In short, the Red Fire Kingdom's goal was to make the three factions distrust each other and cause them to view each other with enmity and war. Now, all three parties had been tricked. However, only they knew that they were innocent. Even now, they were still thinking that the other two forces must have kidnapped Brian and directed the Red Fire Kingdom's anger onto the other two countries, thus killing them with a borrowed knife. After all, they had never thought that it was the Red Fire Kingdom who initiated the conspiracy. After all, the Red Fire Kingdom had launched a sneak attack without expressing their hostility. The two Grand Duchies really didn't know the real situation. Even if they had magicians who wanted to pry open the mouths of some of the Death Warriors, the Red Fire Kingdom had magicians who had long cursed these Death Warriors. The Jadeite Grand Duchy and Lanyu Grand Duchy seemed to belong to the human nations. Logically speaking, they should be vassals of a certain kingdom. But it was a pity. They were not vassals, because the group of vampires had survived until now. They had gradually developed from a family to a human nation. It was because the human powers did not care about them. Hence, they had gradually developed over the past thousands of years. But now, the Red Fire Kingdom had decided to take action first. The Lion Kingdom was also close to the territory of the Jadeite Grand Duchy. As for the Lion Kingdom's intentions and why it did not stop them, or why the Lion Kingdom did not intervene, it was a problem between the Red Fire Kingdom and the Red Fire Kingdom. The two kingdoms must have negotiated and discussed the division of benefits. As for the sword that had started the war, it was William. It was the Dawn mercenary team. At this moment, on the 7th day after William returned to the city of Dawn, he made use of the employment mission issued by the Red Fire Kingdom to create trouble. His first stop was the Jadeite Grand Duchy. For this trip, William had brought many people with him. Burn Cinder, Diablo, Lautner, Alec Eric, Violent Dragon, and Wales were also with him, including himself. There were 8 Grandmaster legendary bosses. When they walked out of the teleportation portal, they discovered that many players were blocking the entrance of the teleportation hall. Many players had also received the news on the forum. The Dawn mercenary team had received another S-level mission. They had come to the Jadeite Grand Duchy to find the missing Marquis son. Hence, they wanted to see the impressive scene of 8 legendary bosses appearing at the same time. In addition, besides a few players of the Dawn mercenary team, most of the players in the Jadeite Kingdom were from the Emerald faction. When they saw this scene, they were dumbfounded. It cannot be helped. The aura was too strong. The equipment was too extravagant. In the Jadeite Grand Duchy, Grandmaster NPCs were like gods. The Grandmaster legendary bosses were a symbol of invincibility. The Emerald players did not know how many legendary bosses there were in their faction, but there were at least 6 or 7 of them. When the Emerald players saw the aggressive expressions of William and his companions, suddenly their gazes turned grim. What was the meaning of this? Did they not just receive a mission from the Red Fire Kingdom? Why were they here to fight? It did not seem like a good thing that so many bosses had come. TSK. All of them are legendary bosses. They look impressive, but they're just making use of the Red Fire Kingdom's mission. It's just a missing person mission. Is there a need to make such a big fuss? If I didn't know better, I would think that they're here for a fight. Some Emerald players looked at the players of the Dawn mercenary team and sneered. Idiot. If Prince William is here for a fight, he won't use the teleportation portal. He'll fight his way through the city gates. A player named Yao Yin Picker sneered. Since the players of the Dawn mercenary team are so impressive, why don't you dominate the entire legendary continent? If we're not in the kingdom, I'll beat you to death. Since the city of Dawn is so impressive, you don't even have a mission in your own city. Instead, you have to come to our Emerald Grand Duchy to snatch a mission. I'll make sure that the players of the Dawn mercenary team can't leave the city gates today. His words were extremely domineering. Yao Yin Picker was a guild leader. When he noticed that the other Emerald players were looking at him with admiration, he immediately used a transmission scroll to stop the players of the Dawn mercenary team. Anyway, it was just for show. Why did he do that? There was no other reason. It was to increase the reputation of his guild, to attract more players to join his guild. But who would have thought that the person who spoke to him was none other than Meichuan Naiku? He was not a famous player, but he had sucked up to Prince William before. As a high-level player, Meichuan Naiku's equipment was terrifying. He had half a set of dark gold equipment and half a set of gold equipment. He also had an epic weapon. He glanced at Yao Yin Picker, who was wearing a full set of gold equipment. Then, he glanced at Prince William, who had not gone far. He suddenly attacked Yao Yin Picker. Before the other Emerald players could react, William attacked. He relied on his various equipment and secret manuals to kill him with a series of moves. Even the little orange weapon in his hand was dropped. There were guards at the entrance of the teleportation portal hall. Just as they were about to come over, Meichuan Naiku picked up his loot and ran behind William. He shouted, "Prince William, do you remember me? I'm Meichuan Naiku." You didn't know that the chosen ones of the Emerald Royal City not only spoke rudely to Prince William, but they also made sure that none of the chosen ones of the Dawn mercenary team could leave the city gates. From what I saw, they were trying to kill someone. As a member of the Dawn mercenary team, I couldn't tolerate his arrogant words. In the end, I accidentally killed him. Prince William, please don't let the guards in the city capture me. I'm very loyal to the Dawn mercenary team. William glanced at Meichuan Naiku. He had heard their conversation just now. He didn't expect Meichuan Naiku to take advantage of the situation. However, regardless of whether Meichuan Naiku was trying to kill someone for his loot or for other reasons, he had killed a player who had humiliated him on the streets. After all, he had made the city of Dawn proud. William glanced at the patrolling guards and snorted. Get out of my way. The chosen ones of the Emerald Grand Duchy are like barbarians. How dare they insult the Blackleaf Elves and my mercenary team? Do you believe that I'll head to the Blackleaf Forest and beg the king to send troops to teach these ignorant and illiterate chosen ones a lesson? The patrolling guard's face darkened. Bullsh asterisk T, Bullsh asterisk T. I heard what that person said. He didn't insult the Blackleaf Elves. How am I supposed to explain your nonsense? Just as he was at a loss for words, a cabinet official of the Emerald Kingdom walked over. He smiled apologetically and said, Prince William, please calm down. I didn't expect you to arrive so early. As a result, you encountered some misunderstandings when you stepped out of the teleportation portal. I'll send someone to teach these barbaric chosen ones a lesson. You, tell the patrol leader in the city to tell the chosen ones to behave themselves. Don't create trouble for me. Yes, my lord. Your Highness, what do you think? Are you satisfied? Yes, I'm satisfied. Don't worry. I'm just here to look for clues for the mission. With your attitude, I'll definitely tell the king of the Red Fire Kingdom that you didn't do it. William grinned and laughed. He walked in front with a domineering aura. The cabinet official smiled apologetically as he followed William. It cannot be helped. William had accepted a mercenary mission, but under certain circumstances, William was more like a diplomat of the Red Fire Kingdom. He represented the status and reputation of the Red Fire Kingdom. Now, even if the Emerald Grand Duchy was unhappy with William, they were afraid that William would slander them with a feather in his hand. Even if William could not produce any evidence, he would insist that Brian Redfire was captured by the vampires of the Emerald Grand Duchy. So, they had to lower their attitude and try to get Prince William to leave as soon as possible. As for the chosen ones, what was wrong with saying a few words? It was a pity his aristocratic attitude and a series of actions. It had simply aroused public indignation. Many Emerald players started cursing on the forum. Damn it. Is there any reason for this? Not only were our people killed by outsiders in the Jadeite Royal City, but our freedom was also restricted. Those guards actually forbid us from leaving the city. Losing our sovereignty is a disgrace to our country. Why did I join the Emerald Grand Duchy? Damn, don't talk nonsense. I also realized that there are a lot of people in the Emerald Grand Duchy. I feel like they are vampires. Perhaps the Lord of the City of Dawn is right. I won't say much, but I can't stay in a camp that bullies its own people. Let's go. I'm going to the City of Dawn. Look at the Lord of the City of Dawn. He's domineering. He treats his chosen ones well. Let's leave this sad place. William went to meet the king of Emerald Grand Duchy. That was the vampire king who changed his face every 100 years. His entire appearance had not changed at all, but he had never changed into a human. Chapter 369. The palace of Emerald Grand Duchy was huge, magnificent, and extravagant. Most of the buildings were grayish-white in color, but they did not give off a gloomy vibe. After all, the vampires in this world could walk under the sunlight. If they wanted to integrate into the human world, they had to build palaces similar to those in other human nations. They could not build castles that vampires liked, like Lord Bernard of the East Sea Metropolis. If they really did that, they really thought that everyone else was retarded. William was led by the cabinet minister, and they soon arrived at the interior of the palace. Passing through the spacious plaza of the palace, William saw many guards, nobles, and officials in charge of palace affairs. Even though William's rank was higher than theirs, he could only see that they were humans with his insight, because vampires usually had the appearance of humans. Their small canine teeth could be retracted. If William wanted to prove that they were vampires, he had to beat them up to activate their transformation ability. Then everyone could see this scene. Of course, there were some methods to prove that they were vampires. For example, some old methods in this world, such as garlic, holy items with light attributes, and the Temple of Light's holy water, would make the vampires feel disgusted. But remember, this meant that they did not like these things, but it did not mean that they were afraid. In fact, the vampires in the gods' world had very few weaknesses. If the holy items were not blessed by the light legends and sages, they would be useless against them. Therefore, if they wanted to prove that they were vampires, they had to rely on violence. Not long after, William met the king of Emerald Grand Duchy. Dracula Jadeite looked like a very strong middle-aged man. He was fishing under the scorching sunlight. Then, Dracula hooked up a greedy fish. After he caught the small goldfish, he quickly threw it into the water, allowing it to swim around happily. After all, he was not doing this for food. He was just showing William his benevolent and kind side. No matter what the performance was like, he had to put on a good show. Dracula had good hearing. When he heard William's footsteps, he turned around and waved his hand. It was as if he had met an old friend. He invited William to sit on a stone chair at the side. His Majesty is very leisurely and elegant. William carried a stone chair that weighed more than 100 pounds and sat under the shade of a tree. He really wanted to talk to the guy in front of him. No one who really liked fishing would be willing to fish under the sun in a temperature of 40 degrees. Even professionals weren't afraid of heat. But most of them would find a shady place to fish based on their psychological effects, especially when there are so many tall trees around you, and they don't affect your fishing rod. Are you purposely staying under the sun to show that you are human? I'll be a fool if I believe you. After that, William used his insight. It was a level 139 Grandmaster Legendary boss. It was only one level away from reaching the epic level. Without a doubt, this old king was the strongest person in the Emerald Grand Duchy. The strongest vampires in Lanyu Grand Duchy and Dark Knight City were also level 139 legendary bosses. There was no other way. They were originally humans, but now they had lifespans comparable to the elves. They had obtained many benefits, but at the same time, they had received an eternal curse. That was if he couldn't obtain the Blood Dragon's blessing. He couldn't reach the epic level. Now that the Blood Dragon was extinct, they had no chance to remove the curse. This was why they were frantically searching for the blood essence of the Blood Dragon. The vampires wanted to use the blood essence to break the shackles on them. They wanted to become epic, legendary, and even sages. Only by becoming stronger could they obtain true freedom. They would no longer be bound by the human empires. When that time came, the world would be big enough to accommodate the vampire race. However, it seemed like a noble idea of fighting for freedom. In fact, it wasn't as pure as the vampires thought. Because of ambition, the weak had weak ambitions. The strong had strong ambitions. It was very difficult for someone to maintain their original intentions. Many young people who had just become professionals had pure righteousness in their hearts. but intelligent creatures like humans. They were greedy. There was no end to greed. He believed that if the guy in front of him obtained the blood essence of the blood dragon, then the humiliation of disguising as a human for hundreds or thousands of years would erupt. At that time, he would become extremely arrogant. For example, the Lord of the Dark City, Osman Lothar, had become a vampire in order to exterminate the vampires. But after he obtained the blood essence of the blood dragon and broke through to the next level, his original goal changed. He no longer worked hard to exterminate the vampires. Instead, he became the new king of the vampires and continued to expand the number of Blood Clan members. In that era, where dark incidents occurred frequently, there were rumors about vampires everywhere in the southern region. Countless humans had died at the hands of the vampires. The demon hunters were very busy as there were battles between them and the vampires everywhere. In the end, the commander of the Southern Region Temple, Roland Fecker, personally solved the problem of the vampires. If the number of Blood Clan members continued to increase, it would not only be a problem for the Southern Region, but also for the entire legendary continent. Dracula glanced at William, who was hiding under the sun. He was expressionless, but he felt that he had made a mistake. He smiled and said, "I know the purpose of your trip. The nobles and officials of Emerald Grand Duchy will fully cooperate with you to investigate those D***MN vampires. We will definitely help you find useful clues." "Thank you, Your Majesty. But can I ask a question?" "Please go ahead. I've heard that some of the nobles in the Emerald Nation are actually vampires." Dracula narrowed his eyes and replied in surprise, "Oh." He smiled and said, "Perhaps some. But you're not only the leader of a mercenary team, but also a lord. You should know that in the human nation, titles can be bought with money. Those vampires don't cause trouble and give me enough money. Do you think I'll deal with them for the sake of the lives of some commoners? Will I investigate whether the people who bought the titles are vampires?" William suddenly understood and nodded. "Your Majesty, you're right. The Emerald Territory is very large, and there are many nobles. Of course, Your Majesty is too busy. The vampires are all old bastards. These bastards are very rich. If they come to the City of Dawn and give me enough money, I won't deal with those vampires for the sake of the lives of some commoners." Dracula suppressed his anger and said with a smile, "That's right. These old vampires are all rich. But if you think they have something to do with the world that kidnapped Brian Scarlet Flame, you can also go and find them. But I hope you can find evidence. Otherwise, you'll capture a human noble by mistake. Don't worry about me. I'm the king. If I don't respect the Red Fire Kingdom, I'll act according to the rules of the Emerald Grand Duchy. Your Majesty, you must be joking. I like to act according to the rules. You said that as long as I have evidence, I can find trouble with the vampires. Am I right?" Dracula pondered for a while and said in a deep voice, "Yes, evidence. With evidence, you can take action." "What if I have evidence after taking action?" William continued to ask. Dracula's expression finally became gloomy. "You can try. Don't forget your current status. You're just a mercenary who has accepted a mission. You should know the rules of killing and assassinating human nobles, right? Your Majesty, you don't have to be angry. I'm just asking. Besides, I don't have to do it myself. Those vampires will come to me." William suddenly laughed. He looked confident. Dracula raised his eyebrows. He could not help but ask why. "Because I have 2 authentic maps of the blood essence of the blood dragon." When he said this, Dracula felt as if his head had been hit by a heavy hammer. He only had 2 maps. The Dark City had 1 map, and the Lanyu Grand Duchy had 1 map. How could William have 2 maps? But Dracula immediately remembered that William had led an army to attack the East Sea metropolis. The fate of the current lord of the East Sea metropolis, Bernard, was unknown. It was very likely that William had obtained the 2 maps from him. D***M. Bernard borrowed my soldiers and gave me 1 map. After he was captured, he immediately gave me 2 maps. So one of the maps is a duplicate. But the other map must be the most important one that we haven't been able to find. Subsequently, Dracula took a deep look at William. He wished he could kill William right now. William continued to speak with fervor. "I heard from Bernard that the vampires are fighting for these maps. It seems that they are fighting for the blood dragon's blood essence. If I want to find the whereabouts of Brian Scarlet Flame, why don't I use the maps as bait to lure the vampires out? Your Majesty, what do you think of this plan? Dracula could not help but clench his fists, but he still laughed and said, good idea, good idea. Subsequently, he said meaningfully, I only hope that when you lure the vampires out, you can protect the two maps. After all, according to my intelligence, there are many vampires in the Emerald Grand Duchy. If it's just the 7 Grandmaster professionals by your side, they might die without a trace. You don't have to worry about this, Your Majesty. You said that I'm going to bring a Dragon Blood Legion, or my Elfin Guards, or my Griffin Legion. Would the vampires dare to come? Am I right? TSK, TSK. Your Majesty, just wait for the good news. After I release the news, I'll kill as many vampires as they come. Besides, I don't really need this lousy map. I can cooperate with some blood race. They want the map, and I want the vampires. Isn't that better? After all, Brian Scarlet Flame is more valuable to me. Is the blood dragon's blood essence useful to me? I've killed more than 5 dragons. I have plenty of dragon's blood essence. Otherwise, how could I have a Dragon Blood Legion? Am I right? William kept bragging, but his arrogant attitude showed that he looked down on the vampires. Dracula was not angry. Instead, he was pleasantly surprised. Gosh, was the Lord of the City of Dawn really here to find Brian Scarlet Flame? He even wanted to give away the Blood Dragon's blood essence map? Damn, so we can cooperate. Why didn't you say so earlier? Don't worry, I'll send someone to contact you. Then, we'll find trouble with other vampires. Isn't it just to find the vampire who kidnapped Brian Scarlet Flame? That's right. It must be the bastard from the Dark Knight City or Lanyu Grand Duchy. When I snatch Brian, you'll give me the map. Dracula was getting more and more excited. When William saw this scene, he knew that he had succeeded. He had belittled and insulted the vampires. Then, he had revealed that he had 2 maps and that he did not care about the map at all. In addition, he had the support of the Red Fire Kingdom and the City of Dawn. Dracula had no choice but to take the initiative to find trouble with the Dark Knight City and Lanyu Grand Duchy. It was simple. It was all a ploy. The disappearance of Brian Scarlet Flame was the trigger for William to insert himself into the chaotic relationship between the 3 parties. And it was the key to igniting the vampire war. And it was the 2 maps in his hands. Chapter 370. They left the Emerald Palace. William did not carry out the mission immediately or publicize the fact that he had a map. He decided to let his subordinates wander around and adapt to the local customs. There were many missions recently, so they had not been idle for a long time. More importantly, the brothels in the City of Dawn were not open to them. William had had enough of them. They kept using his name to find young ladies to do shameless things for free. They were ruining his reputation. But he also understood that this group of single dogs would not be able to take it if they did not have women for half a month. Violent Dragon had just gotten married and was well-behaved in the City of Dawn. But when he was brought out by William and allowed to flirt with Burned Cinder, he also embarked on a path of no return. Their smiles were perverted and curious. William could not help but think of a saying. Wildflowers are not as fragrant as flowers at home. They came to a foreign country. It was not in their character not to visit some special places. Therefore, His Royal Highness generously gave them a day off so that they would have enough time to have sex. After all, the cabinet officials of Emerald Grand Duchy even paid. There was no reason not to take advantage of free things. Even if William did not do it, he could let his subordinates do it. William even had an idea. Should he bring a few legions next time? Ahem, this method was a little too much. Perhaps there were not enough young ladies in the Emerald Palace. On the other hand, he strolled around the streets, using his Saint Aura and 342 PY points to show off. He wanted to see if he could meet some famous NPCs in his previous life and recruit them. After all, the City of Dawn was not considered powerful in the legendary continent, but it was considered powerful in the southern region. William's intelligence department had also deliberately promoted it. Many young people in small places were proud to become professionals. They were proud to join the Dawn mercenary team. They were proud to be the lackeys of William. In short, Alec from the intelligence department was William's loyal subordinate. He made up a list of 8 honors and 8 disgraces and promoted it in some small places. After all, in this magical era where information was clogged, bards were the only way for commoners to obtain information from other places. How many wandering bards were there in the City of Dawn? There were a total of 38,000 of them. They were eloquent professionals that could be found all over the southern region. He was right. Traveling Bard was also a lifestyle class that players could change to. However, this class was only suitable for multi-level marketing, not normal players. Hence, very few players chose the Traveling Bard class. The City of Dawn had to spend at least 50,000 gold coins on these people every month. But what about value? Many excellent sheep traveled thousands of miles to the City of Dawn in hopes of joining this great and sacred place. William's reputation was growing at an exaggerated rate every day. Even if they were thousands of miles away, many people still had feelings for this Prince William that they had never seen before. Some of them even had a favorable impression of him that increased by more than 800 points, it had to be said. Bard is the 21st century web. William was a celebrity. Fans were everywhere. As for the endowment of being handsome, William had basically determined that he had the qualities of a sage. When his charisma exceeded 300 points, basically every time he walked by, the favorability points on the information panel would be constantly refreshed. Even after he walked through a street, the favorability points would increase by tens of thousands. What can I do? I'm just so outstanding and handsome. Most of the favorability points that increased by 100 to 200 points are males. As for the favorability points that increased by more than 500 points or even 900 points, there's no need to think about it. Most of them are women. TSK. In this era where looks are important, it's a pity that I'll never be a man that you can't get. William was secretly delighted. In fact, if he really wanted to conquer Emerald Grand Duchy, he could kill some time. As long as he increased the favorable impression of the commoners who were not hostile to him, he could casually say something, and this group of people would rebel everywhere. Although there were very few professionals among them, and they were not very useful, they might cause trouble. This was enough to keep Emerald Grand Duchy busy for a while. When that time came, if William really wanted to attack, he could guarantee that it would be easy to conquer Emerald Grand Duchy. The only pity was that the City of Dawn had no reason to start a war. Now, he could only plot in the dark. Then he glanced at the information panel. He did not find any famous NPCs from his previous life, so he glanced at the surrounding players. There were players from both the City of Dawn and Emerald Grand Duchy. There were hundreds of them following behind him. Recently, there was a lot of discussion in the forum. It was said that by following behind Prince William, one could obtain a strange encounter mission. Therefore, many players wanted to give a try to see if it was true. However, they did not know that William was also browsing the forum. Prince William looked at the various doubts in the players' minds. They were discussing whether he could trigger a strange encounter mission. Then, he had another idea. Wasn't it just a strange encounter mission? Yes. Also, in the future, he would have to do it once in a while. Not for other reasons. It was to make the players from other factions envious. Then, they would gradually walk into the embrace of the City of Dawn. Therefore, Prince William suddenly chose a player from the City of Dawn and made him perform his best dance on the street. Then, the player was ecstatic. He took out the seaweed dance from hundreds of years ago. After a series of swings, everyone was dumbfounded. They thought that the player was possessed by Nicholas Zhao, C's great-grandfather. They immediately retreated tens of meters, afraid that they would be infected by this unknown curse. Even so, William revealed an awkward but polite smile. He casually gave the player a piece of intermediate dark gold equipment. Gosh, this kind of dance can also give a piece of dark gold equipment. My mithril eyes are going blind. Prince William's aesthetic standards are too low. The strange encounter mission is amazing, but I still want to ask, if a lady chooses a striptease dance on the street, what equipment will Prince William give her? Don't ask. In such a situation, Prince William will definitely take her away and find a place with no one around to give her the equipment. Sure, I like it. I want Prince William to personally give me the equipment. Oh, you're a man. Don't say such things. You're disgusting. Some players of the City of Dawn were arguing. Then, someone said, could it be that after the version update, the programmer added a new mission trigger mechanism for Prince William? It's possible. Otherwise, the so-called strange encounter mission is really unbearable. It's just that Prince William has been missing for a long time, so we didn't have the chance to trigger it. Next, William turned around and left. He disappeared in front of everyone at an extremely fast speed. Actually, he wanted to give an intermediate epic equipment. But that person didn't dance at all. Even the old lady who dances in the Northeast has a better sense of rhythm than him. I gave you a piece of dark gold equipment to show that I'm not poor, after a while. He returned to the spacious palace arranged by the Emerald Royal family and rested for the time being. But in just a few minutes, the forum of the City of Dawn was in an uproar again. On the forum of the Emerald Royal family, there were many sour comments. But even though they said so, thinking about the benefits of the City of Dawn, there were still people leaving the Emerald Grand Duchy and choosing to join the City of Dawn. Basically, as long as the players were not on the blacklist of the City of Dawn, as long as they were professionals who had reached the beginner level, they could join the Dawn mercenary team. After all, they were all sheep. Even if they could not reap any profits after joining, they could still organize activities to earn some profits. It was a profitable business, so there was no reason not to do it. Prince William's little notebook was enough to tell the truth. Many people who spoke ill of him were not deported. In the future, he just had to deal with these people. He still had to earn money. On the morning of the third day, after William woke up, he admired his perfect figure in the mirror. Coupled with his 1,080-degree handsome face, he almost fell in love with himself. But he put aside his romantic feelings and put on his equipment. He was ready to cause trouble. Although it seemed like he was slacking in the Emerald Royal City, he was actually slacking. Alec, the intelligence minister, was in charge of publicizing that he had the map. All he needed to do was to open his mouth. For the past 3 days, he had been combing through his memories. He found some important missions, plots, and NPCs' names and jotted them down in his little notebook. He did not want to miss the time and place of contact. But in just 3 days, the fact that the Lord of the City of Dawn had the map had spread. Basically, all the vampires with some connections knew about this secret. And on this day, William was expressionless. With a cold expression, he walked out of the side palace and left the Emerald Royal City with the 7 Grandmasters. They headed to the Nightmare Forest. They were going to investigate the disappearance of Brian Scarlet Flame. Before Dracula of the Emerald Grand Duchy left, he summoned a few great nobles who looked anxious. He looked at the few old men in front of him and said bluntly, he released the news himself. His main purpose is to exchange the map for information about Brian Scarlet Flame. And even if he's alive, what should we do? Do we rob him or do something else? He has 7 powerful Grandmaster experts with him. We won't be able to defeat him. Do we have to mobilize the Vampire Legion? Asked a Vampire Marquis. Dracula shook his head. There's no need. The City of Dawn is no longer the same as before. Perhaps you don't know this, but I know that the Elven Prince's backer is not just the Red Fire Kingdom. His mother turned out to be a legendary Grand Magus. So, if we can avoid fighting, try not to. Your main task is to hide your faces and approach him. Try to ask him if he can verify the authenticity of the map. If it's real, then go and ask him to verify the authenticity of the map. Then, for the blood essence of the Blood Dragon, it's time to start the war. This is an opportunity. This is the best time to gather the 4 maps. In order to become a domain expert, we can't give up. Understood? The other vampire marquises nodded solemnly. They were also Grandmaster legendary bosses. They had been stuck at this level for many years. They were confident that if they had not become vampires, they would have broken through the shackles. But now, the opportunity was right before his eyes. Even if they had to start a war with the vampires, they could not miss it. But there were vampires like the Emerald Grand Duchy. There were many vampires. Lanyu Grand Duchy had the same intention. The Dark City had a grudge against William, so they were too embarrassed to come. But after William entered the Nightmare Forest, there were hundreds of vampires from the 3 parties who followed him into the forest. And all of them were the kind of people with extremely fierce combat strength. William saw everything. He did not believe it. Would these vampires sit down and negotiate when they met? They would fight first. Then they would trade with William. Chapter 371. Nightmare Forest. This was a sad place for William. Back then, after he had stolen the bloodline fruit, he had been chased by the assassins of the Dark City. If he hadn't been strong enough back then, not only would there be trees growing on his grave, there would have been birds building their nests. There were 8 of them. All of them were Grandmaster legendary bosses. A team with such a lineup might not be able to do as they please in the entire Southern Territory, but within the borders of some Grand Duchies, they could definitely be considered an invincible existence. Because of this, William dared to provoke the 3 vampires unscrupulously. He spread the news so that they would have no choice but to contact him or stop him from collaborating with others for the map. However, after William and his companions entered the Nightmare Forest, they completely disappeared from everyone's sight. That was right. It was the ultimate skill of digging tunnels. William had many years of experience in digging tunnels. While he was digging, he could basically erase all traces. He had no choice. Practice makes perfect. He had dug hundreds of kilometers of tunnels to practice his famous ultimate skill. Others could not help but be impressed. In particular, this was a forest with many dead branches and rotten leaves. As an outstanding half-elf, he could use many things to cover the traces of his companion's disappearance. Meanwhile, hundreds of vampires from the 3 powers entered the forest. They received news that William had disappeared. This news made them very angry. They were panicking. The Emerald Grand Duchy and Lanyu Grand Duchy had come to collaborate with William. The vampires of the Dark City had the same intention, but they had a grudge against William. So they came to prevent William from collaborating with other powers. Otherwise, they would take the opportunity to kill the vampires of other powers. But then, all the powers thought that William had a secret relationship with the Blood Race. It was very likely that they would collaborate. The City of Dawn wasn't weak either. However, the 3 vampires really wanted to explain that they had not kidnapped Brian Redfire. They had no reason to do so. William was a person who used a chicken feather as a token of authority. If he listened to the slanderous words of others and put the blame on him, he would have to face the wrath of the Redfire Kingdom. Wouldn't that be a huge loss? So, the disappearance of the people from the City of Dawn. This caused the already heavy atmosphere in the Nightmare Forest to become even stranger. Each of the 3 powers sent over 100 vampires. The Marquis Vampire leading the team immediately sent out his subordinates to search for information about William and the others. But in this way, something happened. In just 2 hours, when the sun had just set, more than 10 vampires sent out by the 3 parties were all killed. When this group of people died, they didn't even leave behind a scream. Among them, when the Emerald Blood Clan was discovered, they saw their former comrades and companions hanging on the treetops as dry corpses. The bite marks on their necks were clearly visible. In particular, the fact that their blood was quickly absorbed and their skin was dry and wrinkled was enough for everyone to confirm that they had indeed died at the hands of their own kind. Some of the Blood Tribe members who hadn't experienced many battles couldn't help but feel fear when they saw this scene. They were actually rarely afraid of certain things. However, they were afraid of this kind of pervert who even sucked the blood of their own people. Coupled with the recent terrifying rumors, it made them feel a chill from the bottom of their hearts. The Marquis Vampire leading the team clenched his fists, and his small canine teeth suddenly grew out. He coldly said, "The Dark City, it must be those bastards from the Dark City. Only they would suck the blood of their own kind. D***men, those perverts from the Dark City, can't even be considered Blood Tribe members. In order to become stronger, they suck the blood of their own kind. We have to kill them. In particular, I heard that the Lord of the Dark City, Osmond Lothar, can no longer transform back into his human form. Now, he can only live in the form of a bat with dragon wings. I think he has become a monster. I've also heard such rumors recently. Everyone, don't spread out. If you see the fellows from the Dark City, just attack them. Anyway, there are mortal enemies." At this moment, a Grandmaster Vampire who had been silent all this while suddenly asked, Is it possible that the blood tribe of Lanyu is trying to make us fight with the Dark City first? And they've already contacted the Lord of the City of Dawn? The leading vampire Marquis pondered for a while. He said in a deep voice, "It's not impossible. But Lord William's first stop is the Emerald Grand Duchy. He even told the king about his plan. This means that he's more inclined to trust us. Furthermore, we have many business dealings with the City of Dawn. Logically, he has no reason to cooperate with the blood tribe of Lanyu." After saying that, he paused and continued, "But everything is possible. In short, this is the last chance for us to break through our shackles. Now, no matter which force the blood tribe we see, we have to kill them without mercy. Although there aren't many blood tribe members, our internal strife will consume many of our kind. But as long as we obtain the blood essence of the blood dragon, everything will not be a problem. From now on, the blood tribe will rise and become a powerful race that isn't weaker than the elves and humans." Understood. When the blood tribe members heard the passionate speech of the elder, they nodded at the same time. They drew their weapons and chose to prepare for battle for the future of their race. This situation was also happening to the vampires of Lanyu and the Dark City in different ways. There were two ways for the blood tribe of Lanyu to die. The first way was to have all the blood in their bodies sucked dry, and the second way was to be hacked to death. As for the vampires in Darkness City, it was much simpler. They were basically decapitated by a slender sword. The technique was clean and efficient, and it was obvious that it was done by someone who understood the structure of a vampire's body very well. Furthermore, the person who did it was very agile and fast. The situation was obvious. In the current Nightmare Forest, besides the Grandmaster Assassins of the Blood Tribe, there was no one else. This was because the Demon Hunters had a different fighting style. They preferred to fight openly with the Blood Tribe. Furthermore, any demon hunter with a bit of intelligence would know that the Nightmare Forest wasn't a place they should be in. Did anyone think that it was the City of Dawn who did it? No one did. This was because the purpose of the prince was very clear. He was looking for Brian Scarlet Flame, even if he had to sacrifice a precious map that wasn't worth mentioning. It was obvious. In the prince's eyes, Brian was more valuable than the map. Perhaps the Red Fire Kingdom had given him a bounty, so he had no choice but to do so. What reason did he have to secretly stir up trouble? Even if he wanted to stir up trouble, he shouldn't have done it so quickly. As a result, as the three forces continued to search for William, they got closer and closer to each other. Small conflicts occurred. The Great War of the Vampires had begun. Originally, Emerald and Lanyu's 200 Blood Tribe members had encountered each other. They had wanted to maintain their calm. But the Blood Tribe of Dark City had also arrived. When they saw this scene, they couldn't help but stir up trouble. In the end, a chaotic battle ensued. The Dark City's vampires who stirred up trouble couldn't escape either. They were also caught up in this chaotic battle. More than 300 high-level and guru vampires were engaged in a bloody battle here. Because they were all angry, and they were once enemies, they didn't want to wait any longer. As the battle went on, the high-level combatants of both sides died. The enraged three forces took out their magic transmission scrolls and started to call for reinforcements. Where were William and his companions? It was quite a coincidence. They were right under the feet of this group of vampires, 20 meters below, in order not to expose his whereabouts. William didn't even use his soul perception. He was waiting patiently, because there was no need for him to show up. The three vampires were fighting with all their might. If they didn't determine who was the king, they wouldn't give up. William and his companions didn't have any vampires. How could they suck the blood of others in an instant? Was it William's soul magic sacrifice? Of course not. The cooldown time of this skill wasn't that short. Or did he make use of the Lord of the East Sea Metropolis, Bernard? Either way, Bernard was used by William as a juicer. After squeezing out all his value, William killed him to exchange for experience points. After all, he couldn't sell him for money. Bernard was still a threat, and William was afraid of revenge. But he could suck blood. Vampires weren't the only ones who knew how to do this. After he returned to the City of Dawn from the extreme north, Moses told him about the revival of the Blood Moon Witch. So before he came here, he learned from the Blood Moon, which, long-legged ferocious, which a skill called blood sacrifice. This was a magic skill that she used to sacrifice tens of thousands of civilians at the same time. Regardless of whether it was the effect or the ability, the blood sacrifice was far stronger and faster than the vampires who used their mouths to suck blood. Many people on the forum of the City of Dawn were discussing the beauty of the Blood Moon, witch, and her perverted methods. In this game, players could learn any skills. As long as the NPCs were willing to teach and the players were willing to learn, they could learn many skills. However, the key point was that skills required matching talent and attributes in order to display the greatest effect. For example, a shield bearer had low intelligence. He didn't even have matching endowments. Would it be useful for him to learn magic skills? It would be a waste of experience points. But many players were willing to learn some magic skills with special effects. For example, William learned the water ball skill, fireball skill, and other beginner magic skills. They were all level 1 and had not been upgraded. He didn't need to waste experience points on them. But this was enough for William. He didn't do it for anything else. He was just worried that one day he would be in a desperate situation and there would be nothing left in his space ring. He could also use the water ball technique to get something to drink or use the fireball technique to roast meat. Although he could also use his thunder power to start a fire, he specialized in learning. Once he attacked, the dragon meat would be gone. It was too easy for William, who was hiding in the dark, to attack the vampires who were looking for him. Because the difference between the two was too great, those advanced vampires wouldn't even know how they died. William only needed to kill his opponents and leave 2 bite marks on their necks. Then he would use the blood sacrifice black witchcraft to suck the blood out of their bodies. At this moment, William used his hearing to determine how intense the fight above his head was. More than 2 hours had passed. The ripples of the battle gradually weakened, but suddenly they became extremely intense. William couldn't help but use his soul perception to investigate. Gosh, there are tens of thousands of vampires. Why are there so many of them? Gosh, even King Dracula has come. Are they really going to have a decisive battle? William immediately retracted his soul perception. He pondered for a long time with a grave expression. Then, he transmitted a message to Eric, who was far away in Emerald Grand Duchy. He was the deputy leader of the Dawn mercenary team. Announced the final mission of Crimson Blood. Let all the chosen ones head to the Nightmare Forest to capture vampires. When Eric saw the details of the mission, as well as the number and quality of the vampires, he couldn't help but swallow his saliva. Are the chosen ones going to capture vampires? Or are they going to die? They're going to die. But the battle here is so intense. Many nobles in Lanyu and Emerald Grand Duchy have been exposed. The chosen ones have their own contact information. When the chosen ones of the Dawn mercenary team arrive, the chosen ones of other forces will also receive the news and come here. When the chosen ones of the Dawn mercenary team discover the truth and know that the nobles they are loyal to are vampires, they will be in chaos. When the time comes, more chosen ones will be attracted to join the City of Dawn. We'll be making a killing. After William finished speaking, he narrowed his eyes. The chosen ones were still at the intermediate level. But in the middle of the game version, the Liver Emperors would gradually advance to the advanced level. When that time came, they would be considered the main combat power of a legendary continent. This group of people would be able to change the development process and power of some duchies. William would take this opportunity to place the City of Dawn in the light and justice camp again. He would then attract more players to join the City of Dawn. In this way, when the City of Dawn had 80% of the players, as long as William did not do anything that would make the players feel disgusted, he would have the upper hand. As for the new players in the future, as long as they were not fools, of course, they would follow the footsteps of the veteran players. Even if they did not choose the City of Dawn, would William care about a group of new players who had no levels? No matter how fast they grew, would they be faster than the veteran players? William was more concerned about the veteran players who had played the game from the beginning to the end. It could be said that the main mission of Crimson Blood, once again, the players would be filled with distrust towards the NPCs. It was just like the War of Power. But in the main mission of version 1.0, the Black Lava Dukedom was the victorious party. The players did not see the disgusting side of the Iron Kingdom, which was Gurdanasi's. In version 2.0, the Darkness Invasion allowed the players to see Gurdanasi's, who had become a devil. But eventually, some people would think that Gurdanasi's had become a half-devil because he could not bear the blow of his nation's defeat. But no matter what, William needed the main mission that would negatively affect the NPCs to show off his outstanding qualities. In short, he wanted to become an outstanding legendary boss and a lord at that. He had to rely on his peers. Chapter 372. The battle between hundreds of vampires had escalated to a battle between tens of thousands of vampires. At this moment, the area within a radius of tens of thousands of meters had become a battlefield. One after another, huge trees were chopped down by saber chi and sword chi, and they were smashed into pieces. A tall vampire uprooted the tree and used it as a huge weapon. He charged at the enemy. At that moment, the battle formation was broken. The tall vampire who was holding the huge tree was dismembered. However, the formation he broke also allowed his allies to charge into it. But at this moment, a vampire marquis from Lanyu Grand Duchy appeared. His speed was like a strange red light. When he swept past the battlefield, dozens of vampires from Emerald Grand Duchy stopped in their tracks until a gentle breeze blew. Their heads slid off. In this complicated nightmare forest, the battlefield was divided into dozens of areas. 3 parties were fighting everywhere, and the Grandmasters would not stay in one place. They would constantly wander around the battlefield or fight with another Grandmaster Bloodbreed to a standstill. However, there were still many human followers among the 3 forces. They had also formed small teams and were constantly fighting. Not only were they extremely powerful, but they were also extremely loyal to the vampires due to their lifespan and other reasons. They had the spirit of fighting to the death without retreating. The battle between the 3 parties was extremely bloody and intense. Everyone was going all out, and every move was fatal. There were too many Grandmaster and legendary vampires. That was right. In total, the 3 forces had more than 50 Grandmasters. Most of them were legendary and epic. When William saw this scene, he was also a little frightened. In his previous life, the Crimson Blood War had been fought by vampires. Even their legions had not participated in the war. It cannot be helped. The human legions of the vampire nation were responsible for protecting the territory. They were not there to deal with the internal strife of the vampires. If the human legions came here, they might even rebel, let alone start a war. So William did not know how many legendary vampires there were. But now, it seemed that there were more than 40 legendary vampires of different levels. Is a legendary bloodline that cheap? If I'm not wrong, there should be a lot of people who become vampires halfway through their lives. Otherwise, they would be consuming the blood of their own kind to further strengthen their bloodline. William thought for a while and understood what was going on. That was certain legendary bloodline professionals who did not have much lifespan left or suffered incurable injuries would take the initiative to seek help from the vampires in order to survive. Otherwise, some vampires would secretly suck the blood of their own kind to evolve their bloodline. At this moment, the battle above their heads had already reached its climax. The old king, Dracula Emerald, was the first super boss to appear. As soon as he entered the battlefield, he had killed a Guru Master from each side. However, he was also besieged by multiple Grandmaster legendary bosses from both sides. Now his entire body was covered in wounds. He suddenly spread the wings behind him, burst out at supersonic speed, and instantly retreated from the battlefield. Meanwhile, he even grabbed an enemy vampire, opened his mouth wide, and bit the white neck of the vampire, sucking in mouthfuls of fresh blood into his body. Not long after, the vampire in his hand gradually stiffened and even turned into a mummy. But his own injuries were recovering at a speed that was visible to the naked eye. The moment he completely recovered, the old king, who could still fight, suddenly pulled out the longsword that was stabbed into the ground and laughed. "Osmond Lothar, Vlad Lanyu, since you're already here, why don't you come out?" Dracula, when did you start to absorb the blood of your own kind? Aren't you afraid of becoming a so-called monster like the rumors say? Dark Castellan Osman had already transformed into his human form. He was behind a large tree, surrounded by many bats. The moment he landed on the ground, the bats around him transformed into Blood Clan members. They were the Blood Shadow assassin team that he had raised since he was young. Among these guys, 3 of them had also reached the Grandmaster level. I didn't expect that the war for the map would start in advance. Since you're here, you should have brought along the map, right? A mocking voice came from afar. But the person who spoke was even faster. With every step he took, he would turn into a shadow. After he came out of the darkness, the shadows behind him remained for a few seconds. They were still vivid and lifelike, making it impossible to tell which was real and which was fake. And this was the current king of Lanyu Grand Duchy, Vlad Lanyu. When the other 2 heard this, they also didn't want to retreat and said bluntly, yes. The 3 of them looked at each other. Almost at the same time, they took out the map and raised it above their heads. The next moment, the map was taken back. The atmosphere on the battlefield was extremely quiet. But Dracula Jadeite suddenly said with a smile, "Then, before we decide the winner, shouldn't we invite the 4th kid who has the map? Prince William, who is hiding 20 meters underground. Are you still not going to come out and take a look? It's obvious that your plan has succeeded. We've successfully started fighting, and we're even in a situation where we're going to fight to the death. But don't you, the troublemaker, want to come out and take a look at this scene?" Once he said this, the Lord of Darkness and the King of Lanyu were stunned. What was going on? Had they been tricked? But William did not hesitate. As the ground in the center of the battlefield bulged, Prince William revealed his head like a gopher. He smiled at the bystanders and said, "Hello, I don't know why I'm here." Subsequently, 1 gopher after another came out. There were a total of 8 gopher, but tens of thousands of vampires surrounded them, baring their canine teeth. But no matter how they looked at it, this group of vampires with canine teeth seemed to want to kill the gopher. When they saw William and his companions appear, they vaguely understood that when they were searching for William, accidents kept happening to the vampires. They were not killed by their own kind. Instead, the bastard lord of the City of Dawn had deliberately provoked them. It was no wonder that after the battle lasted for so long, they did not even see William and his companions. They had all dug into the ground. But the situation was not hopeless yet. William also understood another principle. Whether he died or not was not that important to the 3 forces in front of him, because the big bosses of the 3 forces wanted to become the king of vampires. They actually wanted to kill the other 2 who had the map. They only wanted to take away William's map. The cunning Dracula Emerald had somehow discovered William and seen through his plan. But William knew that Dracula Emerald did not know why William wanted to start a war between the 3 forces. When William saw that the 3 forces were surrounding him with hostile gazes, he immediately raised a map and shouted, "Stop!" The 3 forces stopped in their tracks. After all, this map was a magical beast skin. Although it was enchanted, a Grandmaster expert could easily tear it apart, especially when William took out the map. The maps in their hands seemed to have some sort of reaction. This also showed that the map in William's hands was definitely not fake. When he saw this scene, William glanced at the map that was copied by Bernard. It was probably useless. The original map should be the key to opening the door. Hence, he looked around and said in a deep voice, "I started a war because I don't trust any vampires. Ever since I saw the vampires in the East Sea Metropolis, I know that you can't be trusted. But I have to start a war to find Brian Scarlet Flame." Everyone raised their eyebrows. They did not deny that vampires like to lie. "I'm the Lord of the City of Dawn, the Prince of the Blackleaf Elves. My mother is a legendary great enchanter. I'm sure everyone has heard of this." The prince continued with his innocent looks and award-winning acting skills. Many vampires did not want to make sound. "Why? Were you showing off your identity now? But why were you screaming now? Even if you screamed till your throat broke, would anyone come to save you instantly?" But William was just giving them a friendly reminder. He wanted them to consider before attacking him. Then he continued saying, "But you know that I'm a neutral city lord. If I want to develop, it's not enough to rely on the support of the Blackleaf Elves. I need to borrow the power of the Red Fire Kingdom. So we formed an alliance. You can think of me as the first pawn sent by the Blackleaf Elves to the legendary continent. A pawn to test the waters and return to the prosperous areas of the legendary continent. Now that the darkness is approaching, the legendary continent is in turmoil. In this era of suffering, the elves must stand on the same side as the humans to face the darkness invasion. So I speak human language. Osmond Lothar interrupted him. Ahem. The corners of William's mouth twitched. He glanced at everyone and said, let's put it this way. The Prince of the Red Fire Kingdom has been cursed. Now, the King of the Red Fire Kingdom is looking everywhere for a way to remove the curse. He has no time to rush over. As an ally of the Red Fire Kingdom, I received the mission to find Brian Scarletflame. Now, I'm the one looking for him. If anything happens to the Prince of the Red Fire Kingdom, you should understand the importance of Brian Scarletflame, right? There was a short period of silence. But Flenderlawn, you suddenly said, there's no proof. Even if you have evidence, what does it have to do with you sowing dissension and starting a war? William was expressionless. He cursed in his heart that this group of old fogies was quite smart. They realized that William was trying to change the topic, just as he was about to weave a lie. Some of the Grandmasters of the Blood Clan received the transmission. In the next second, their expressions changed drastically. What was going on? Hundreds of thousands of chosen ones were rushing over from all directions. Hundreds of thousands of them. That was hundreds of thousands of them. What were they going to do? That was right. This group of chosen ones only knew how to catch vampires and sell them everywhere. Mimpy. It was infuriating. If they had not disguised themselves well, they would have believed that if they were exposed, the chosen ones would rush into their castles in groups. But how was that possible? Who had such a huge influence? Not only were the chosen ones of the City of Dawn among them, but there were also the chosen ones of their respective forces. But no matter what, the most likely person to expose this information was the Lord of the City of Dawn. The prince saw that the situation was not good again. He glanced at the numbers and said in a deep voice, yes, I was the one who sent the chosen ones over. What are you trying to do? To give you the courage to go all out. When William said this, he suddenly laughed. In the next moment, everyone saw him throw the map into the sky. It hung on a tree. Then he led Burncinder and the rest and ran out without looking back. But at this moment, no Blood Clan was looking at him. The three vampires looked at each other for a few seconds. Suddenly, they dashed towards the center. The most intense battle began. In just a few seconds, corpses were strewn all over the map. Broken limbs flew into the sky. This was a war that would not end until one side was dead, because the four maps had gathered at this moment. In order to become the king of the vampires, they did not care about exposing their identities. I got it. I'll get it. Huffed. The first advanced vampire who got the map was beheaded by the Blood Shadow Squad from the City of Darkness before he could finish a sentence. But the assassin did not live for more than 3 seconds. He died again at the hands of another vampire. The three forces were fighting incessantly. The map would not stay in the hands of one person for more than 2 seconds, especially when the map was real. The closer the three Blood Clan bosses got to the map, the more they could feel the surging magic power of the map. And when the three bosses faced each other, the magic power of the map in their hands increased, until they were less than 3 meters away from each other. Buzz, buzz, buzz. A buzzing sound that made people cover their ears reverberated in the air. The vampires closest to the four maps could not stand it and knelt on the ground. In the next second, the four maps suddenly flew out from their space rings, hands, and clothes. They merged into one in midair. Next, a spatial crack appeared. In the span of a few short seconds, Yi Zichen's eyes widened. Dracula and the others finally understood. It was no wonder that no matter how hard they searched for the terrain on the map, even after countless years, and even after searching all over the southern region, they still could not find the corresponding location. It turned out that the map was a key to open a teleportation door. What was behind the teleportation door? Was it an alternate dimension? Or was it a single teleportation door? They did not give too much time to hesitate. They did not know how long the spatial crack would last. Dracula, Osmond, and Flinder dived into the spatial rift without any hesitation. At the same time, William appeared from underground with a mole-burrowing mouse team. He grabbed the 4 maps that had been forgotten and led the team into the spatial crack. It was a pity. After the maps were taken away, the spatial crack only lasted for a few seconds before it completely disappeared in front of everyone. But almost all the Grandmaster vampires entered the spatial crack. Only the advanced vampires were left outside, looking at each other in dismay. Someone was about to propose a truce. A group of noisy voices could be heard. Subsequently, along with a shout, "Kill the ducks!" Gosh, Prince William did not lie to us. There are vampires here. Capture them and sell them to the City of Dawn. F*CK him. F*CK. Isn't he a noble count of the Emerald Grand Duchy? Gosh, there are so many familiar nobles. They're a group of liars. Kill them. Hundreds of thousands of players surrounded the vampires who only had 20,000 survivors. If there was a Grandmaster here, even if there were many players, it would not be a problem. But they were merely advanced bosses. How could they face hundreds of thousands of intermediate players who could resurrect? To be honest, wouldn't their hands be tired of killing 1,000,000 pigs? Chapter 373. All the Grandmaster professionals entered the space crack in a few seconds. Only a few hundred high-ranking vampires and 20,000 mid-ranking vampires were left outside. They were considering whether to continue fighting. But according to the current situation, it was pointless. After all, they could not decide who would obtain the blood essence of the blood dragon. No matter who came out from the space crack, the blood race who obtained the blood essence of the blood dragon would become the true king of the vampires. They just had to submit to him. There was no other choice. If they could survive, why would they seek death? Just as they were about to rest and wait for their future king to appear, the players did not allow it. Hundreds of thousands of players charged at him without hesitation. They didn't even want to waste words, and they just attacked. Charge! Kill the vampires with me, if you're my brother. If you kill a vampire, you can earn at least 1 piece of advanced dark gold equipment. Gosh, there are only tens of thousands of vampires. There are too many wolves and not enough meat. Brothers, wait for me. The vampire hunters have 3,000 members. Those with silver equipment and above apply to join the team. Let's wipe out this group of trash. Those with full sets of dark gold equipment are the top team in the City of Dawn. The core players of the Glory Guild are to join the team. Chu Liuqiu, Xiao Ayan, and other professional players are to lead the team. The players charged forward while expanding the size of their team. For a moment, the players of the City of Dawn, especially the players of the other 2 factions, saw the excitement and impulsiveness of the players of the City of Dawn. They did not care whether the vampires were nobles of their faction. They just wanted to kill them. After all, they were all vampires. Was it wrong to kill or kidnap the vampires? There were hundreds of thousands of players. Like a surging wave, they roared and charged towards the vampire army that was trapped in the middle. The 3 vampires did not dare to fight against each other. They formed a huge circular formation that was only 1,000 meters wide. The shield bearers were in front, while the other professions were at the back. The moment the vampires collided with the army of players, it was like a river crashing against a black reef. The players died in droves under the counterattack of the vampires in the 10 or so seconds of the melee. Before the first wave of players could even touch the shields of the blood race, they were turned into white light by the blood explosion spell and various skills. But the second wave, the third wave, even the next wave of players would charge at him. The formation of the vampires was constantly broken, and vampires were constantly falling under the blades. Many vampires could only watch helplessly as their friends and brothers fell beside them. They were not dead yet, but their legs were grabbed and dragged away in an instant. Then they were tied up in a practiced manner. What was even more perverted was that those fellows who tied up their companions did not hesitate at all. He put it on his shoulder and quickly left the battlefield under the protection of his companions. Hiss! That kind of chilling speed, that kind of skilled and abnormal technique made many of the vampires tremble with fear. Many high-ranking vampires couldn't help but feel afraid. They were afraid that they would be kidnapped and sold to the cruel demon hunters. You should know, there were high-level vampires here, and there were also some legendary and epic bosses. But according to the current situation, these high-level vampires could still escape if they wanted to, but if they really wanted to fight to the death and save their comrades and people, it was almost impossible. In particular, the equipment of many chosen ones was simply insane. And these people, they were the big bosses among the players, professional players, and so on. This group of people was the main combat force that besieged the advanced professionals. With their various advantages, they wouldn't die in an instant, and they could still deal a lot of damage. After all, shield bearers of the blood race were in the minority. They were usually agile warriors with explosive damage output and low defense. And the most important thing was that they didn't want to suck the blood of the players. Because William had said a long time ago that the chosen ones were the sharp sword that restrained the vampires. If the vampires wanted to suck the blood of the players, the taste would be indescribable. Just by looking at their expressions, one could imagine that after the vampires sucked the blood of the players, they might have the illusion that there was feces in the blood and that the feces were poisonous. Although, sucking the blood of the players could restore health points. But every time they recovered, they had to pay the price of eating feces. That was something that many vampires couldn't bear. The battle between the players and the vampires continued. The scene in the space crack made the people who entered stare in bewilderment. After more than 40 Grandmaster professionals entered, they immediately divided into 4 camps. Because they hadn't obtained the blood essence of the blood dragon, the 3 blood races were far more wary of each other than William had imagined. The most important thing was, after everyone arrived, they immediately understood that this was not a teleportation portal. It was an alternate dimension that had to be opened with a map lock. When William entered, he scanned the surroundings. The sky was grayish-white. There was no sun, moon, or stars. When they looked further, they could only see chaos. In particular, the unknown black gas was still eroding the ground under their feet. They didn't know how long this situation had lasted. Is this the Nibelungen left behind for the first era, the era of the giant dragons? A blood race member couldn't help but say, "What the heck is this Nibelungen? I have the dragon's root of the giant frost dragon. If I give it to you, you will know that it's an alternate dimension." William's mouth twitched. From the mythological era to the current era, there were countless alternate dimensions of various sizes, and many had been preserved until today. For example, the alternate dimension in the Moses fortune-telling shop was only a laboratory. When William went to the Moonlight Forest, he found that there was also an alternate dimension in the treasure vault of the Moonlight Elves. But before he and Moses could solve the problem of the barrier, they were discovered. Among them, the largest was none other than the so-called Divine Realm, or Divine Realm where gods lived. And in every era, the rulers of different continents had different names for the alternate dimensions. For example, the mythological era. They called the alternate dimensions the Divine Realm, Small Divine Realm, Great Divine Realm, and even the current Divine World. In the first era, which was the era when the dragons controlled the gods' continent, they called these alternate dimensions Nibelungen. The vampire in front of them was once a servant of the blood dragon. Some inheritance marks would probably never be erased. That was why the vampires called it Nibelungen. As for the elves of the second era, they called the alternate dimensions alternate worlds. Because there was a rumor, the world tree was called this name. Not only could it grow as high as the sky, but its roots could penetrate the deepest part of the ground, and its leaves could cover the sky and earth. What was more important was there was also a space inside the world tree. That space was equivalent to the size of a legendary continent. Because of this, the space outside the gods' world was also called alternate worlds by the elves. But now, in the third era, the human empires renamed it alternate dimensions. The alternate dimension in front of them was at least 100,000 square meters. Its height was unknown, but no matter what era it was, this space was not considered too small, especially the unknown black aura. It was estimated that it had been devoured since the first era. It was hard to imagine how big this alternate dimension that was created by the dragons had been. After all, To be able to let the dragons fly and live unfettered, the range would definitely not be too small. It was a pity. William never had the chance to see the magnificence of this alternate dimension again. At this moment, they were on top of a ruin. There were many broken but very tall buildings around them. The architectural style was very rough, but it gave off a majestic aura that made people unable to help but feel subservient. They did not know what had happened here, but just by looking at the huge, suffocating cracks and the damage of the 1,000-meter building, they knew that an unimaginable battle had happened here. Everyone looked into the distance. There was a dragon palace that was more than 3,000 meters tall and tens of thousands of meters wide. William and the others inhaled a breath of cold air, because the dragon palace, which seemed to be on the verge of collapse, was not only well-preserved. Now, there was a faint light in front of them, especially that suffocating aura, which was getting more and more intense as time passed. It seemed that because of their arrival, the aura had revived. When Osmond Lothar saw this scene, he glanced at the others who did not dare to act rashly. He immediately led his men and rushed towards the palace. "How dare you, you old thief! D*MN, the blood essence of the blood dragon is mine." The three blood race forces rushed towards the dragon palace at the same time. William did not stay for long. He glanced at Alec, who had the thinnest eyelids, and said in a deep voice, "Search the ruins. You might find some treasures, whether it's dragon scales, broken weapons, or metals, gems, or anything else that you don't recognize. Collect them all." "Understood." Alec nodded and turned his head to search for treasures. William leisurely led his men and followed Alec. It was a Nibelungen that had never been opened before. How could there only be the blood essence of the blood dragon? The blood essence of the blood dragon was the most worthy of being recorded and remembered by the vampires. But many of the items left behind from the ancient battlefield were also useful to William. Let's not talk about other things. If not for the fact that the space ring was not big enough, William would have taken all the ruins with him. Although many of the building materials had lost their magic, in this sealed alternate dimension, the flow of time was different from the outside world. He could always find some treasures. The three blood race forces quickly arrived near the palace. The palace was in good condition. It had a huge door that was thousands of meters tall and thousands of meters wide. The door was cracked open, and only 2 people could pass through. But Osmond Lothar, who was the first to rush to the door, did not enter. Instead, he stayed outside in a daze. When the other blood race members arrived, or rather, when they saw the scene inside the door, they also stopped in their tracks, and even like dominoes, they knelt on the ground. Their heads were stuck to the ground, and they did not dare to raise their heads. William came over. He saw what was inside the door. He was expressionless because a huge golden eye was staring at them. It was a golden eye that was still burning. It was a golden eye that was burning with red flames. It was a blood dragon. Chapter 374. It was a huge eye that was burning with golden light. The vertical pupil seemed to be able to swallow one's soul. In terms of size, this eye was much bigger than William and the others. The vampires all fell to their knees. This was because they could feel the irresistible dragon might from the depths of their souls. This was the might of the blood dragon. This was the firebird of the creator of vampires. The blood race didn't worship all the dragon race. Only the blood dragons would give birth to such thoughts. When William saw this scene, he knew that there should be a blood dragon inside. However, as time passed, although everyone remained motionless, many thoughts began to form in their minds. They believed that the unextinguished golden eyes meant that the giant dragon had never died. But if the blood dragons really didn't die and knew that their former servants had come, why didn't they summon them? Heavily injured, his injuries are so severe that he can't move. The soul is dead, but the body is not destroyed. The vampires of the 3 factions each had their own thoughts. After all, they had come for the blood essence of the blood dragon. A living blood dragon was not in their interest at all. But just as they were considering whether they should take the initiative to go, a voice resounded in the depths of everyone's souls. "Come in." It was just 2 simple words, but it gave people a feeling that they didn't dare to resist. In general, Follow your heart. Dracula and his companions looked at each other and struggled to stand up. Then, they glanced at the people of the City of Dawn, who had also heard this. The former hardened his heart and braced himself to take the lead. The vampires were at the forefront. William and his group, who had also heard the noise, walked behind them. Now was not the time to refuse, because professionals in the guru realm, like them, simply could not resist the existence of the legendary, or even the saint realm. Regardless of whether they were heavily injured or not, the crimson dragon in front of them should be strong enough to crush them into ashes. More than 50 people who were blocking the entrance all entered. Only after entering the enormous Dragon Clan palace did they see everything clearly. Dead bodies. The ground was littered with corpses. There were dragon corpses everywhere. There were no corpses that were more than 10 meters long. The smallest dragon corpse in front of them was more than 50 meters long. This meant that the dragons participating in this battle were at least adult dragons. A domain dragon. He was the only living being in the entire dragon palace. It was the golden eye in front of them, the blood dragon. However, there were unimaginable injuries on his body. This was a giant dragon that was more than 300 meters long. The wingspan that was scattered on the ground was at least 1,000 meters long. However, 90% of its body was made up of ghastly white bones and slowly rotting dragon flesh. Some of the bones even had bite marks all over them. The only thing that remained intact was the dragon crystal on his chest, as well as the ball of blood essence that covered the dragon crystal. In addition, it was the only eye left. This blood dragon could be called a bone dragon. However, he's not dead yet. That was because when they arrived, blood dragon's pupils constricted. Seeing the situation, an earth-shattering aura surged towards them once again. The aura was so heavy that it was almost stagnant, suppressing them to the point that they couldn't even utter a single word. William had long since used his insight, but all the information was filled with question marks. Just when everyone was at a loss and even regretting coming to this place, the blood dragon, who was obviously at the end of his lifespan, used his soul power again and said in a self-mocking tone, "Servants that I created casually, are you here to save me?" Dracula and the others wanted to speak, but when they looked at the blood dragon's eye, they didn't have the courage to lie. One of the most important things was they suddenly realized they were being controlled. At that moment, their souls were controlled by the blood dragon. This was the price they had to pay for immortality. If the blood dragon could create them, he could control and destroy them. Meanwhile, the blood dragon's eyes were no longer looking at the blood race. Instead, he looked at William and the others with a strange gaze. Just when he was about to say something, the giant dragon's pupils suddenly constricted when he looked at William. An indescribable aura suppressed his body, and the prince almost knelt on the ground. The prince was a little bewildered. He wanted to crush the teleportation scroll in his hand and leave this place. Not to mention breaking the alternate dimension. He could even leave the palace. After all, William had discovered a problem. William's injuries were too severe, and his soul power could not spread too far. This was because he had not discovered Alec. Or rather, Alec did not hear William's words. So, only Alec was still outside the Dragon Palace. But no matter what, it didn't feel good to be stared at by a legendary blood dragon, who might even be a sage. William wanted to wonder if he had killed too many dragons, so the blood dragon could tell. But that was not right. The shining title above his head only had an effect on the players. The NPCs wouldn't be able to recognize it. But who would have thought that the blood dragon didn't kill William as the other vampires expected? Instead, he simply said in a deep voice, "Come closer to me." The prince looked at the huge dragon's head. One of its eyes was sunken in, and the other eye had never closed. The dragon's mouth was full of wounds, and its teeth were cracked. He raised his eyebrows and walked to a position less than 10 meters away from the blood dragon with his bare hands. At this moment, the blood dragon's nostrils deeply inhaled. His golden eyes contracted slightly. When he looked at William again, there was a complicated look in his eyes. Then he said in an inexplicable tone, "You participated in or killed 2 dragons." The corners of William's mouth twitched. What a cool dragon nose. Was he born in the year of the dog? A few years ago, he had killed a fire dragon, and he could smell it, but the prince didn't lie. He nodded and said, "That's right. I killed a fire dragon and participated in killing a white dragon." "Very good. I like humans who don't lie. But you have the aura of a dragon on you. You didn't tell me." The blood dragon's tone was not calm. Burn Cinder and the others raised their eyebrows. Even the other vampires looked at William. He was right. William had never hidden the fact that he had reared a dragon. But the others couldn't recognize the small, black dragon. What kind of dragon was it? Because there was no dark aura on the dragon. Many people even thought that the Lord of the City of Dawn had reared a dragon. It was a hybrid between a great dragon and other creatures. When William heard this, he couldn't help but narrow his eyes. Just as he was about to say something, the blood dragon suddenly opened his mouth. Air gushed into his mouth like a hurricane. At that moment, William had wanted to crush the space scroll and escape first. But none of the people from the City of Dawn were sucked into the dragon's mouth. Instead, Osmond, Flinder, Dracula, and the others were swallowed into the dragon's stomach without any resistance. Perhaps it was not the stomach. They were swallowed into the dragon's mouth. The blood dragon used his teeth to chew a few times. He was still savoring the aftertaste. A few seconds later, the sacrifice of more than 50 Grandmaster vampires restored some of the blood dragon's energy. The remaining golden pupil became brighter and brighter. Until this moment, the blood dragon muttered, "I didn't expect the existence of a dusk dragon in this world." William opened his mouth, but he didn't manage to say anything. The blood dragon ignored William and continued to reminisce about the past. The blood race and their servants are food that we, the blood dragons, specially made for ourselves. But in their inherited memories, it only shows that they are servants of the blood dragon. It doesn't say that they are our food. After all, we engraved the symbol of food into their memories. It's too inhumane. Gosh, don't you think it's too much to talk about humane? William was speechless. However, the blood dragon didn't know what he was thinking. He looked at William and pondered for a long time before saying, "Is it the fourth era now?" Yes, it's the beginning of the fourth era." William wanted to ask the old man how he knew about the time flow outside. But after thinking about it, he gave up on this nonsense. The blood dragon grimaced in pain. It seems like it's going to be another chaotic era. Next, the blood dragon kept asking questions. "Are there any blood dragons in the God's continent?" "No." "What about the rainbow dragon?" "I've never heard of it." "Fairy dragon?" "I've never heard of it." "Mystic dragon?" "I've never heard of it." "Moonlight dragon?" "There are records of it, but I've never seen it." William didn't know anything. The others didn't know if he really didn't know or if he was pretending to not know. But the blood dragon wasn't angry. He asked again, "Are there time dragons in the God's continent?" "I've heard of them before. They should still be alive, but I don't know how many there are. I don't know where they are." This time, William finally gave a definite answer. The blood dragon nodded in relief. He thought that William was right. The time dragon was cunning and wouldn't die. As for the number, 2 fingers were enough. But when the people in the City of Dawn heard the names of these dragons, they felt like they were listening to a wordless book. They were completely dumbfounded. What was this? Did the dragon race have such species? They had no idea, and it sounded like the elemental dragons and the metal dragons couldn't be compared to them. After pondering for a while, the blood dragon looked at William and asked, "Why are you here?" William hesitated for a while before he said in a firm tone, "It's for the dusk dragon. He's my companion, but he's too young and weak. I want him to become stronger so that he can accompany me to the God's continent and even beyond the God's continent. So, according to the rumors, I came here to look for your blood essence." The blood dragon looked deeply at William and said in a deep voice, "Very good. You're still not lying." William didn't know how the blood dragon could tell if he was lying, but his true intention was to make the dusk dragon stronger. But in his narration, some words were slightly changed. For example, "The dusk dragon is my companion." For example, "I want him to accompany me to the God's continent." But with the addition of these words, William didn't believe that the blood dragon would be able to tell. The blood dragon looked at William with a much friendlier gaze. He continued to reminisce and muttered, "We are the masters of the first era. We are supposed to be strong forever. If not for the civil war that shouldn't have happened, the elves wouldn't have had the chance to overthrow the rule of the dragon race and dominate the Second Era. It's a pity, forget it. It's too late to say anything. The past is in the past. Perhaps this is the will of the heavens. This is the problem caused by the dragon race being too powerful. At this moment, the blood dragon looked into William's eyes as if he wanted to say something. But in the end, he sighed like an old man who was about to pass away. Take it all. Give everything that I have that can be used to the dust dragon. I've been waiting here for too long. I had a chance to live, but those immense servants didn't come to save me. It's too late. It's too late. Time passed. My soul has started to decay. My memory has started to blur. Even my indestructible dragon body is slowly rotting in the air. I have no chance of revival. Later, take my dragon crystal and my remaining blood essence and give them to the dust dragon. Remember, take good care of him. He's the hope of the dragon race. Because the other dragons died. Those MN fellows, they're all dead. The blood dragon roared for the last time. Everyone in the city of Dawn could hear the endless desolation and unwillingness in the dragon's roar. In the next second, the blood dragon's gaze gradually dimmed. The blood essence and the dragon crystal, which had been in the center of his body, slowly flew into William's hands. Subsequently, the blood dragon said in a tone that could not be rejected, "Leave this place. The moment I die will be the moment Nibelungen is destroyed. So don't even think about taking the corpses of the dragon race. Even if they wanted to kill me, there's still the dragon race that controls the sky and earth, and the dignity and glory of the dragon race. In my place, they can never be violated." Hearing these words, William nodded with a solemn expression. Then, he led everyone to bow deeply and turn to leave. Just as everyone left the palace gate, William could not help but turn back to look at the blood dragon. That inextinguishable golden pupil. It was getting dimmer and dimmer. After all, the blood essence and dragon crystal that supported his soul had been given away. But his eye, no matter how dim it was, it had never closed. Perhaps this respectable blood dragon had never closed his eyes since the day he had been seriously injured. But it was precisely because of his unimaginable perseverance and desire to live that he could survive until now. But no matter what, this kind of expert who would never admit defeat and had a bottom line was what William deeply admired. Even if he was not a human, but a dragon. How did Osmond Lothar obtain the blood essence of the blood dragon? William did not know. Was it because the blood dragon wanted a vampire to be his last descendant? Even if it was a descendant in human form, at least the blood dragon's bloodline would be left behind. But now that William had mistakenly entered, the aura of the dusk dragon had given the blood dragon a better choice. Anything was possible. William did not think too much about it, because the space had started to collapse. It was collapsing at an extremely fast speed. It was as if the entire world was about to be turned upside down. When he took out the map and opened the space rift again, Alec ran over with a grin on his face. It was obvious. There should be a lot of treasures. No matter what, William had gained a lot from entering this alternate dimension. Chapter 375. The moment the people of the city of Dawn came out from the crack in space, William received a notification that he had completed the mission. It was the same for the other players, but the rewards were different depending on the completion rate. Prompt: the Crimson Blood mission has been completed. Prompt: your completion rate for the S-level mission is 130%. Prompt: you will receive 1 million experience points and 300,000 experience points as a reward. Prompt: you will receive the endowment Eye of Truth. William was stunned. His level was very high. Under normal circumstances, he would not be able to receive many rewards from the main storyline mission. But he had followed the vampires into the crack in space. He did not even need to attack, but he had killed dozens of Grandmasters. This was the main reason why the mission evaluation was so high. I have completed so many missions, but this is the only one that has reached 100% completion, and it has reached 130% in one go. Subsequently, William glanced at the Eye of Truth. It was a good endowment in his previous life. Logically speaking, it was one of the top endowments for rangers and close combat professionals. Endowment, Eye of Truth. Your eyes have the ability to see through the enemy's weaknesses. When you attack the enemy's head, heart, or other fatal spots, the critical damage will be increased by 100%. Even if you attack the enemy's weak spots, the critical hit rate will be increased by 30%. I can ignore the 30% critical hit rate increase when attacking the enemy's weak spots. William did not expect his luck to be very effective, but if he attacked the head, heart, or other vital spots, it would definitely cause critical damage. The effect of the Eye of Truth was to increase the critical hit rate by 100%, although 100% was a small amount. But for some people who specialized in attacking the head and heart, it was simply awesome. Next, William looked at the scene of the players' heads and then at the forum. He could not help but smack his lips. He did not know what to say. All the vampires were gone, if there were no accidents. In a short span of 2 to 3 hours, 20,000 vampires had been captured. As for the high-level vampires, they could not resist the players' attacks and flew away. Other than a few lucky intermediate vampires who died, the rest of the unlucky ones were all captured by the players. Many players had returned to the City of Dawn to exchange the vampires for contribution points, equipment, or positions. But the remaining players had not left. They were still waiting to see who would come out from the crack in space. The Dawn players heaved a sigh of relief. The final victor was His Royal Highness. Their main mission was also shown as completed. On the other hand, the players from the other two factions were completely confused. They had more or less encountered the main Crimson Blood mission, but what they received was very different from the Crimson Blood mission that William had modified. One sentence. Compared to the Dawn players, this was a huge loss. In particular, the players from both factions were once again betrayed by the faction boss. They cannot believe or accept this. But no matter what, this was the result of the matter. My faction is gone again. A warrior player sat on the ground sadly. The City of Dawn is the victor again. Why? It's the same in the Iron Duchy and Emerald Grand Duchy. I can't even imagine that the king, marquises, counts, and nobles of Emerald Grand Duchy are all vampires. Could it be that the City of Dawn is the main character of the game? You don't say. Go check the forum. Someone posted a post. What does the City of Dawn represent in Gods? Poster. Angry Fatty, the #1 streamer in Gods. To be honest, on the first day of the game's closed beta, I entered the City of Dawn. At that time, the City of Dawn was just a small rundown city with a population of tens of thousands. But at that time, I could see that the City of Dawn was different. During the game's closed beta, elves, dwarves, and humans lived freely in the City of Dawn. There were about 10 epic and legendary bosses. During the game's open beta 1.0, I came to the City of Dawn again. There were many changes. The number of commoners in the city had increased, and the strength of the Dawn army had increased rapidly. I also managed to find out that our prince is a dragon slayer. He had snatched a dragon from the Iron Duchy. Very good. There was a small conflict between the Iron Duchy and the City of Dawn. This meant that they would be enemies in the future. Hence, when the Iron Duchy and the Black Lava Duchy had a war, the City of Dawn had helped them destroy the Iron Duchy. In version 2.0, the population of the City of Dawn had increased again. The Seraphin had joined the ranks of the Seraphin. There was even an angel. The ruler of the Iron Duchy's Freedom Alliance, the ruler of the king, Gerdanasses, had become a half-human, half-devil monster. He led 70% of the Dark Army in the southeastern region. He had millions of Dark soldiers in an attempt to conquer the City of Dawn. In the end, he had died again. From then on, the Black Lava Duchy had given up its military power. The southeastern region had become the territory of the City of Dawn. However, the vampires of the East Sea Metropolis had provoked the City of Dawn. Hence, the East Sea Metropolis had been destroyed during the version update. The territory of the City of Dawn had expanded to the northeast. Version 3.0. Prince William had immediately given us the Crimson Blood mission. The purpose was to find the hidden vampires. Until now, we finally understood everything. The nobles and officials of the Emerald Grand Duchy and Lanyu Grand Duchy were all vampires. These two nations were under the control of the vampires. They were living in the shadows of the devils. Many commoners did not even know that their nobles and lords were vampires. However, these vampires had all been captured, and if there were no accidents, these two countries would fall into chaos in the near future. What kind of existence would our Prince Royal Highness be? The outcome was obvious. According to Prince William's networking ability, even if the kingdoms were involved, the City of Dawn would still benefit from it. Furthermore, Prince William had entered an alternate dimension. He should have obtained even greater benefits. What I wanted to say was the City of Dawn was closely related to the players. It had led us to many versions of the game. We used to think that the City of Dawn was a beginner's village. But Prince William had grown in an unbelievable manner. He had become stronger in many desperate situations and had established a firm foothold in the southern region. What did Prince William have? He had close to 10 legendary subordinates, hundreds of epic subordinates, countless legions. He had the protection of a great enchanter's mother. He had the support of the entire Blackleaf elven race. He even had a moonlight elven princess who could marry him. Moreover, had you heard about the Magic Conference? Odom Heavyhammer was the last prince of the Dwarf Empire of the Lonely Mountain. Why did little Angel Chien lead the Serafkin to join the City of Dawn? Let's look at the people around His Royal Highness who aren't too outstanding. In fact, each of them has a great background and a past that no one knows about. What did this mean? Prince William had used various methods to gather the main character missions of various races. What was he? He was the destined main character. If we don't join the City of Dawn now, when will we? Trust me, after the Crimson Blood mission ends, Prince William will immediately announce the next main storyline mission. According to my opinion, the game company's setting for Prince William is to grow from a weak person until he becomes a towering super main character. This will be different from the main characters in other continents. Prince William will probably accompany us to the final version. He will be the main character of the Gods continent. I've finished my words. Everyone think about it. Don't make sense? Angry Fatso's post was immediately pinned, highlighted, and became a hot topic. The moderators were all William's female fans. Hence, in a short period of time, there were countless replies. D*MN, it makes sense. The City of Dawn has never missed out on any main storyline missions. Even if the main storyline missions are thousands of kilometers away, Lord William will find a way to participate in them or let us participate in them. Even if it's the main storyline missions of other nations, we can use our identity as members of the Dawn mercenary team to participate in them. The City of Dawn doesn't lie in certain aspects. The benefits offered by the City of Dawn are also much better than many factions. That's right. Remember when Meichuan Naiku killed someone on the streets of Jadeite King City? Prince William protected him. We're the real sons. In the end, the Jadeite players were scolded by their own faction's boss. As an outsider, I feel sad just thinking about it. Stop talking, stop talking. We Emerald players are about to cry. Can't we join the City of Dawn? I've figured it out. In this game, there are no professions that are the real sons. Only the children of the prince are the real sons. I didn't expect the deputy city lord to be the last descendant of the Dwarf Empire in a lonely mountain many years ago. This is really unexpected. The dwarf prince, the elf princess, and the winged battle angel. Are we missing a human main character? William scanned the forum and couldn't help but like Fatso's post. Fatso's performance was quite impressive. Now, he could even help William steal sheep. He was worth nurturing. In the future, William would give Fatso a hidden mission to increase his strength so that he could continue to brag for William. Next, William ignored the players who had not left. Instead, he informed the Redfire Kingdom of the outcome. As for the Redfire Kingdom and Vikru Redfire, they didn't expect the vampire incident to be resolved in such a short time. It didn't even cause trouble in the two Grand Duchies. This made William's affinity with the faction soar. It could not be helped. A reliable alliance was too important. In particular, Vikru Crimson Flames was already thinking about how to clean up after William's mess. After all, if William wanted to conquer the two grand duchies, he had to do something and pay a price. But everything was fine now. The vampires had been wiped out. The high-level and low-level vampires were all dead. The remaining high-level vampires were considered middle-level members of the two nations. But they didn't dare to return to their homes. They had all fled. Hence, in the next few days, there were earth-shattering changes in the Jadeite and Lanyu Grand Duchies. The messengers of the Red Fire Kingdom appeared and announced that the rulers of the two nations were vampires. Due to the civil war between the vampires, they were dead. In addition, the city of Dawn had captured many vampires. They could easily prove that these nobles were actually vampires by using the water mirror magic. But before the civilian armies of the two nations had a civil war, the Red Fire Kingdom hired the army of the city of Dawn to temporarily maintain order in the two nations. With the arrival of the regular army of the city of Dawn and some powerful legion commanders, the human legion commanders didn't dare to act rashly. At the same time, the messengers of the Red Fire Kingdom announced that the two nations would choose a new king to ascend the throne. But there was no need to think too much. The two kings were just puppets. For example, William's approach to the Black Lava Dukedom was similar, but William was more secretive. The Red Fire Kingdom's approach would let people know about this matter, but they couldn't resist. But no matter what, William used a method that he didn't expect to easily resolve the main storyline mission of this version. But it didn't matter if it was fast, because the players would receive the super main storyline mission of the 10-year Blood War. This was the most exciting thing. It was just like what Fatty had said. No matter where the main storyline mission was, even if the city of Dawn was thousands of miles away, it could still bring the players to participate in it. Chapter 376. It would take at least a month to resolve the aftermath of the two duchies, the coronation of the new king, and the secret deal between the Red Fire Kingdom and the Lion Kingdom. But in this 1 month's time, that was when William would reap the most benefits. Within these 30 days, the Dawn Army would be responsible for the security, military, and political issues of the two Grand Duchies. In order to prevent any trouble from happening, the armies of the two Grand Duchies would be disarmed. All the Legion commanders, deputy Legion commanders, and soldiers would be redistributed. The same went for the city guards and the royal guards of the royal palace. But the soldiers would be dispersed. What about the palace treasure vault? What about the military material vault? The Dawn Army would be responsible for guarding it. Ahem. What did this mean? The Dawn Army would gain control of the two duchies within these 30 days. They could even move the treasure vault away. It would not be a problem even if they did it openly. After all transportation problems could be solved using the space ring. No matter how many items there were, they could carry them a few more times. This was the tacit agreement of the Red Fire Kingdom. It was also the reward that the Red Fire Kingdom had promised the City of Dawn. Otherwise, why would William take the risk alone? It was all for the wealth of the two duchies. What did the Red Fire Kingdom want? They wanted the population, sustainable resources, and territories of the two nations. As for the treasure vault, the Red Fire Kingdom did not care about it, because small duchies could be compared to grand duchies. But the difference between a grand duchy and a kingdom was like the difference between heaven and earth. But William wanted to tell them that they did not know how much money the vampires had. This group of old fellas would not spend gold coins to improve the lives of civilians and human soldiers. For hundreds of years, or rather, thousands of years, this group of vampires had been passed down from generation to generation. How much money did this group of vampires have? For the next 10 days, in the name of searching for vampires, William sent out 4 legions to raid the properties of the vampire nobles in the two grand duchies. That was right. They really raided their properties. When William came out of the space and time rift, he had sent people to monitor the territories of the vampire nobles to prevent their families from escaping with the loot. So he did not do anything in the treasure vault. He had already seized 13 million gold coins from the vampire nobles. Among them, there were also thousands of valuable artworks. These things were not of much use to William, but he could keep half of them and sell the rest. As for the various servants of the vampires, they naturally knew that the master they served was a vampire. To treat these people, His Royal Highness also took all of them away. Those who could contribute were mining, and those who couldn't could do other work. In these 10 days, William captured tens of thousands of people and brought them to the City of Dawn. They were all young men and women with decent bloodline potential. As for the reason for capturing them, does His Royal Highness need a reason? He couldn't be like the human nobles who arrogantly rode on a horse, pointed at a commoner, and called him a slave before taking him away. The reason he used was investigation. Find out if you know any vampires if you know where they are. In any case, in this world where only the strong were respected, many things that were targeted at commoners were made up casually. As for how long the investigation would take, it was hard to say. This time, the City of Dawn was like a village raided by bandits. They robbed everything they could about the vampires and left nothing behind. Of course, he couldn't be too ruthless. So His Royal Highness only took 30,000 people from the two nations. Basically, they were commoners with intermediate, advanced, and grandmaster bloodlines. Among them, there were 6 epic bloodlines. Just as the Dawn Army was about to break up the armies of the two kingdoms, there was a mutiny. However, in the face of the Dawn Army, this group of soldiers with different skills could not do much. Although they did not have many military resources, they still managed to seize many good things. However, just as he was about to bring a few people to move the Emerald Palace's treasury, William was dumbfounded. Gold mountains, 5 gold mountains? Lautner, who had followed William into the treasury, felt as if he was going to go blind. How much is this? His Royal Highness was bewildered. Lautner looked at the mark beside the gold mountains and could not help but say, 1 gold mountain is worth 5 million gold coins. In total, it's 25 million gold coins? The vampires are really rich. William acted like the owner of the treasury as he walked through the entire palace's treasury. Mithril, orichalcum, adamantine, gemstones, magical stones, and various minerals that could increase attributes were worth more than the 25 million gold coins. But it was just like what William had said. The vampires who had not been given the opportunity to develop were a group of misers. They only used money to build their own vampire legions. They did not care about the human legions and would not invest much in them. But it was precisely because of this money that William understood a problem. In his previous life, after Osmond Lothar became the king of vampires, he was able to expand the vampire army so quickly. It was all because of these unexpected gains. The tens of Grandmaster vampires had space rings, and some of them had even taken away some valuable treasures. But William did not care about the treasures that could increase his personal combat power. Old Band was calmly drinking his tea. He had been dragged here by William. He wanted to be like the enchanter in the fortune-telling shop. He wanted to quietly study magic at home. It was a pity that William had asked him to come here. He had no choice. William could have recruited a domain warrior to make up the numbers. That domain warrior was Douglet, his mother's trump card guard. He was an epic domain warrior and a legendary boss. Ever since his mother had passed away, he had been acting as a hidden NPC in the City of Dawn. He seemed to like to tease the players. All day long, he would issue strange missions and give them equipment, gems, and metals that were not good in his eyes, but were awesome in the eyes of the players. In short, Douglet was trying to discover his unique endowments. But no matter what, whenever William approached him, Douglet would look at him as if he was a child. This made William very uncomfortable. After all, it was enough to have Lautner as his uncle. He would not be able to take it if he had more. His mother's personal guards had followed him to the City of Dawn, but Alice did not hand over the control of her personal guards to William. Hence, these 3,000 super elfin warriors were the greatest guarantee that the City of Dawn would not be invaded by enemies. Subsequently, William narrowed his eyes and said, "In that case, it's time for me to tell you something that will affect the future of the City of Dawn." Burncinder and the rest had long known about the 10 Years' Blood War. They did not speak. But when William told them that the 3 elves had joined forces to attack the Orc Empire, and that the City of Dawn would also participate in the war, they did not dare to believe it. Many of them looked worried. After all, that was the only Orc Empire left in the legendary continent. The strongest warrior in the Orc Empire was a pale orc. He was known as the Ice-Sealing Sword Sage. He was extremely powerful. William knew what they were thinking. He said in a deep voice, "The 3 elves of the legendary continent will participate in the war. They swear to destroy the Orc Empire. The elves want to return to the legendary continent. As the Prince of the Blackleaf Elves, I have no reason to refuse to participate in the war. Besides, this war is also an opportunity for me to prove myself, to prove that I'm a true elfin prince, to prove that I'm an outstanding commander, to prove that I'm a trusted and reliable ruler." Speaking of this, many people gradually came to their senses. Why did the City Lord words have so many meanings? To prove that I'm a reliable ruler? Gosh, does William have the ambition to become the Elfin King? At this moment, the 30 trusted subordinates were overwhelmed with emotions. They stood up and shouted, "We will pledge our loyalty to our Lord and fight to the death." William narrowed his eyes. He smiled and said, "Don't worry, everyone. The main force is the chosen ones. I don't have the determination to perish together with them. I want everyone to accompany me and the City of Dawn to stand at the peak of the legendary continent and even the gods' continent." When he said this, the trusted subordinates laughed again. They felt a sense of warmth in their hearts. As expected, William liked them the most. Of course, the chosen ones had to be the ones to sacrifice their lives. But Old Band, who had been silent all this while, suddenly said in a deep voice, "Are the Dawn Army not going?" William looked at him and shook his head. We'll go. We'll go to the best army. The 50,000 advanced soldiers of the Dawn Army will form a new legion. They'll go together." When Old Band heard this, he knew that he had misunderstood William. He thought that William wanted to preserve his strength in this war. But why would all the advanced soldiers go? Gosh, if all the advanced soldiers were to go, it would be a huge loss. The space enchanter looked awkwardly at William. He coughed and said, "I didn't mean that. But if all the advanced professionals are going, what if there are any accidents? If we don't experience war, how can we become the strongest legion and warriors? Don't worry, I have my own plans." William narrowed his eyes. In the war with the Orc Empire, the soft persimmon would appear first before the hard stone. In the early stages, there were small wars involving tens of thousands of soldiers. It was not small. But what he had to do now was to use the large number of Orc legions to give the Dawn Army a buff. The Invincible Legion buff. It was too awesome. Let's not talk too much. As long as he could give the 10 legions the Invincible Legion buff, these 30,000 soldiers could even defeat 300,000 soldiers under certain conditions. There were more and more professionals in the City of Dawn. Some legions with specific attributes and many years of training had formed the Legion buff. For example, a legion formed by Fire Element professionals would form the Fire buff, Ice Element, Thunder Element, and so on. But no matter what, only the Legion buff, which had never been defeated in 100 battles, was truly powerful. That was right. There was also the Dragonblood Legion buff. Jean Long. That was right. William suddenly thought of this. He vaguely remembered the Dragonblood Legion of the human empires. As long as there were more than 3,000 soldiers, the Dragonblood buff would be automatically formed. The name of the buff was a simple word. Jean Long. All attributes plus 30%. Maximum health plus 40%. Defense plus 20%. Movement speed plus 20%. Attack plus 50%. It would increase the damage of all dragons and dragon beasts by 50%. This was the super buff of the Dragonblood Legion. It was so powerful that it was abnormal. Then, what about the Dragonblood Legion buff and the Invincible Legion buff? What would it be like? The human empires had the Dragonblood Legion. But to prevent the dragons from discovering this, they rarely sent the Dragonblood Legion to battle. They could only be used as a surprise attack in some crucial battles. So even in the later stages of the game, William did not see any Dragonblood Legion buff. But William suddenly had an ambition. He wanted to create a super powerful Dragonblood Legion. Hence, William immediately dismissed the meeting. He wanted to slay the dragons within 2 months. He wanted to kill all the dragons that he could. He wanted to kill until a legendary dragon warned him. Chapter 377. There were 2 months left before the start of the 10 Years' Blood War. He had to hurry to slay the dragon. However, William did not tell the players about the upcoming main storyline mission. The players were like the village gossips. The women next door would shout a few times, and the men next door would shout a few times. The next day, they would spread the news to the entire village. To prevent the players from spreading the news to the entire continent, William would not tell the players about the mission in advance. Even though the news of the war with the orcs could be detected by some observant people, William could not allow the players to spread the news. But to create some tension, the city of Dawn had a legion of more than 200,000 soldiers. They were training on Stormy Island. Various materials, rare metals, and ironware were transported to the mysterious underground blacksmith workshop in front of the players. It was obvious. William gave the players the impression that he was going to cause trouble. The players were itching to do something. It was as if a kitten was scratching them in their arms. But William did not tell them about the upcoming mission. Of course, the City of Dawn did not have other missions, but the Dawn mercenary team did. His Royal Highness charm was so high, and he also had the handsome appearance of a saint. He had already befriended the kings and nobles of the southern region. The Dawn mercenary team had also received many quests in the Red Fire Kingdom and the Lion Kingdom. There were not many S-level missions, but there were many A and A+ level missions. It was easy to get rid of more than 1 million players. After experiencing the Crimson Blood main storyline mission, the players did not want to join the camp of the Human Grand Duchies. The players didn't want to join the Human Grand Duchies faction. After all, they were about to break through to the advanced level. They felt that joining the Human Grand Duchies faction was useless. But if they joined the camp of the kingdoms, they would not be put in an important position. It was meaningless to join a small organization. If they were killed, no one would protect them. The best choice was the Dawn mercenary team. The number of members in the Dawn mercenary team increased by 30,000 to 50,000 every day. If everything went according to plan, the City of Dawn would have won 8-2 for a million players in 2 months. That would be 70 to 80% of the players in the legendary continent. When that time came, the City of Dawn would have a place in the southern region. Meanwhile, William finally had the chance to see the little dragon. He arrived at the slaughterhouse. That was right. The only way for His Highness to find Little Rotten Dragon was to go to the magical bee slaughterhouse. This guy enjoyed the treatment that the 3 bear brothers didn't have. Therefore, in order to show off his nobility, he lived in the slaughterhouse all day long. He wanted to widen the gap between him and the 3 bear brothers. After all life, they were comparing each other. It was the same for beasts. Little Rotten Dragon wanted to compete with the 3 bear brothers to see who ate better. There was no other way. Little Rotten Dragon only pursued this much. Noon. William arrived at the entrance of the slaughterhouse under the scorching sun. From afar, he saw a pig with a round belly lying under the sun, basking in the sun. Oh, his tongue was sticking out. He was still drooling. Look at his physique. It wasn't small. The wingspan was 6 meters. Including its tail, it was about 3 meters long. Flying would not be a problem, but it would be a little difficult to carry someone. It's not that small. If I slaughter it and eat its meat, I can eat a few meals. William rubbed his chin and thought for a while. At this moment, Little Rotten Dragon quivered and abruptly stood up. It used its nimble little head to look at its surroundings. It had only lived a few days of eating and sleeping and eating, and now there were actually unruly people who wanted to harm it. When he discovered William, his golden pupils contracted. He wanted to roar at William to not be too presumptuous. William took out a transparent crystal jar and revealed a small gap. Instantly, a tempting smell entered Little Rotten Dragon's nose. He immediately ran in front of William and rubbed his head against William's thighs. From time to time, he looked up at William with an innocent and cute gaze. Do you want to eat it? William held the blood essence of the blood dragon and asked, Ayo, 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 ayo. Little Rotten Dragon nodded frantically. Turn on the spot. Ayo. Little Rotten Dragon flapped his wings and turned on the spot. Smoke billowed, but it couldn't hide his bright eyes that were full of desire. Lie on the ground with your limbs drooping. Little Rotten Dragon obediently did as he was told. He was like a mangy dog. Pretend to be dead. Ayo. Following an evil dragon's roar, Little Rotten Dragon suddenly stood up and then fell to the ground again. It didn't move at all, and even its breathing stopped. Only the corner of its eyes never left William's small crystal jar. William glanced at the affinity between Little Rotten Dragon and William. No matter what, he had not beaten up Little Rotten Dragon and fed him well. His affinity had finally reached 850 points. Most importantly, when William was born, he had used soul control on Little Rotten Dragon. If there were no accidents, Little Rotten Dragon would never be able to betray William. Hence, William decided to give this sage blood dragon to Little Rotten Dragon. That was right. That blood dragon was a sage blood dragon. William was glad that he didn't touch the corpse in the dragon palace. Otherwise, he might not be able to come out alive. Actually, he had considered this problem at that time. Just what realm was this heavily injured blood dragon at to be able to survive from the First Era until now? Then, it seemed that only a dragon king could do it. The possibility of it being a sage dragon was higher. William wasn't afraid that this blood essence would cause the Little Rotten Dragon to explode, because this was the blood dragon's blood essence, not the blood essence of other dragons. The blood dragon's blood essence did not have any attributes. It was a great tonic for any dragon. The blood dragon in Nibelungen was besieged by countless great dragons. William couldn't guess why, but many great dragons had the intention to devour his blood essence and dragon crystal. But in the end, the blood dragon was the winner. The blood dragon's blood essence was like an elixir. Even if the Little Rotten Dragon didn't become an immortal after eating it, it could definitely advance continuously. The blood dragon had the same plan. This meant that the blood dragon's blood essence was not enough to cause the Little Rotten Dragon to explode. He saw. The Little Rotten Dragon used its 2 claws to firmly grasp the crystal jar. Then it raised its head and swallowed all the blood essence in it. It licked its lips with its tongue. There was no taste, but in the next moment, the Little Rotten Dragon opened its eyes wide and rolled on the ground in pain. It opened its mouth and wanted to spit out what it had just eaten. It was a pity. There was no chance. Its limbs twitched nonstop. After a while, it stopped moving and fainted from the pain. The magic on its body became denser and denser. It even formed a giant magic egg that was more than 10 meters long, completely wrapping it within. Until this moment, the undulating magic aura finally stopped. But William glanced at the giant egg that was more than 10 meters tall. Then he glanced at the slaughterhouse employees who rushed over with knives. He coughed lightly and said, "The Little Rotten Dragon is breaking through. Don't chop him." "I see. It's a pity that the egg is so big." A butcher that weighed more than 100 kilograms resentfully retracted his large knife. The others silently shrugged their shoulders. The Little Rotten Dragon ate and drank all day. They already had the thought of killing the Little Rotten Dragon. It was a pity that the Lord had spoken. They could only retract their butcher knives. Other things aside, the slaughterhouse employees were all professionals. There were a total of 36 of them. They were either middle level or high level. All of them were tall and strong, weighing more than 200 kilograms. If they said that they did not steal the food, even a ghost would not believe it. But William was too lazy to care about how much they stole. After all, their loyalty was clear. At the very least, they wouldn't sell the magical beast meat. But the evolution time is still unknown. It's a little uncomfortable. William raised his eyebrows. He did not care about the egg. He would ask Old Ban to set up a barrier to prevent outsiders from entering. After he left the slaughterhouse became a spectacle for the players again. After all, it was rare to see a giant magic egg that was more than 10 meters tall. Many players were guessing what was inside the egg, but the City of Dawn was mysterious. William would not hide many things from the players. He wanted to arouse their curiosity. In particular, the City of Dawn was his lair. Other than legendary experts, no one could enter the city, let alone steal dragon eggs. 3 days later, Nightmare Forest, the Dark City. William wore brown armor, and wielded the Sword of Hex. He stood elegantly on the city wall of the Dark City. He looked at the unstoppable army of players, and his lips curled into a smile. After all, others might not know the location of the Dark City, but he knew it. The new kings of Emerald Jade and Lawn Yu had just ascended to the throne. The kings were still under the control of the Red Fire Kingdom. After the departure of the Dawn Army, there were no rebellions in the two kingdoms. But the new king's control over the legions was at an all-time low. Hence, this chaotic city, which was filled with killers, criminals, bounty hunters, and vampires, had never been conquered. But others could forget about the Dark City. William was a person who liked to take advantage of others' misfortune. He could not forget about the Dark City. He had just led 30,000 Dawn Army soldiers and 200,000 players to attack. The regular army did not even attack. The 200,000 players charged forward. The defenders in the city only defended for a while before they knelt down and surrendered. The inside of the city was also in a mess. Some had abandoned the city, while others had fled. After the death of Osmond Lothar, the rebellious fellows in the city had started fighting for the position of the city lord. Many days had passed, and thousands of people had died in the city. But the new city lord had not been elected. 3 hours later, those who should be killed had been killed, and those who should run had escaped. The players had obtained another hearty victory. Besides the soldiers who had surrendered, there was no one left alive in the entire city, because there were no good people living in the Dark City. After all, kind people could not survive. William looked at the many players who were strolling excitedly in the new city. He smiled. The Dark City will be renamed the Greenlight City. In this nightmare forest, which is filled with chaos, dark creatures, and magical beasts, I hope to turn the Greenlight City into a resting area, a supply area, and a hunting front for adventurers. Ding dong. Prompt. You have received a mission. Clean up the Greenlight City. Mission introduction. The prince does not like the environment of the Greenlight City. He hopes that the chosen ones can clean up the city as soon as possible. Mission difficulty. C. Mission reward. 1 to 100,000 experience points. Another cleanup? We are already intermediate, and we still have to do this kind of mission, but the highest limit is 100,000 experience points. Let's clean up, but it's delicious. I like this kind of mission that is not dangerous and requires no effort. It's also very simple. In fact, many players were speechless. Just a simple cleaning quest had so many rewards. But some players felt that the prince was a little obsessed with cleanliness. This could be seen from a number of sanitation workers in the city of Dawn and the East Sea metropolis. But no matter what, the players also liked to live in a beautiful city. More than 200,000 players had killed their way into the city, besides those who had snuck out to find trouble with the magical beasts. At least 100,000 players chose to accept the mission and worked hard to improve the living environment of the city. The players' work speed was much faster than the NPCs, and the quality of the work was better and cheaper. In less than a day, William guaranteed that the city, which could accommodate more than 600,000 people, would be completely new. The prince came to the city lord's residence. This was the only place that was not dirty and messy. He walked around the city lord's residence, which had been ransacked, and found that all the good things had been looted. But he still used his soul perception. He walked in every room. Gradually, William came to Osmond's bedroom. Suddenly, he noticed that there was a secret room in the bedroom. It was a very large secret room. The prince raised his eyebrows. He punched. Bang! The secret door was shattered. William blew on the left hand of the thunder god, which was flashing with lightning, and stepped into the room. As for the traps, sorry, there was no such thing as a trap in front of the left hand of the thunder god. Oh, did someone live here before? He glanced at the secret room, which was fully equipped with daily necessities. There were many empty bookshelves, some equipment for placing crystal balls, beds, chairs, and so on. His gaze gradually locked on the table. There was a letter here. William used his insight. It was a very normal envelope. There was no magical aura. When he stretched out his hand and took out the letter, there was a ring in the envelope. He first looked at the letter, and his gaze gradually became surprised. Welcome, Lord of the City of Dawn. As Osmond Lothar's life mentor, I often taught him not to go against you. It's a pity that this child no longer believes in my words for the sake of the blood essence of the blood dragon, and to become the king of the blood race. I know, he will die in the Nibelungen, and the other vampires will also die in the Nibelungen. But only you, who is shrouded in mystery, you will be the final victor. Perhaps you will see that the City Lord's mansion has been ransacked. But in my eyes, you are not here for the mere gold coins. Therefore, I have also left you a space ring. There are many interesting things in it. Take it as an early meeting gift from me. William thought that this was the end. He was a little dumbfounded. In the end, the last two sentences were written in the letter. Oh yes, please send my regards to the fortune teller of the City of Dawn. Signature, Aldrich, a friend who does not want to be an enemy. After seeing the signature, William completely understood. It was no wonder that Osmond Lothar could become the king of the vampires. He had obtained the reincarnation of the divination god support. But after Osmond had met him, his fate had completely changed. And this divination god wanted William to send his regards to the fortune teller of the City of Dawn. Gosh, how could a person who had obtained the memories of his previous life and knew that he was the reincarnation of the divination god greet another fortune teller? How could it be possible? But he had done so. This meant that Moses had been the goddess of magic in her previous life. But the most important thing was, who the hell said that William was not here for the gold coins? Come on, you crippled old man, stand up and speak. Chapter 378. Aldrich, the reincarnation of the god of divination. William had heard of his name in his previous life. His divination skills were very accurate and could help him avoid disasters. When he had played as a tombstone player, this old fellow with a broken leg was still alive and well. One look and William could tell that he was a long-lived fellow. From the letter and the space ring that he had left behind, it was enough to show that this old man was very shrewd. After all, Aldrich was the reincarnation of a god who had awakened his memories. Yet, he spoke to William in such an equal tone. William could not imagine how tolerant Aldrich was. It's no wonder that those who can hide can live. This saying is right. There was also a rumor. It was about the god of divination. He was the earliest god to awaken in the gods' continent. Remember, he was the earliest. He had awakened much earlier than the other gods. This meant that he might have excavated some treasures from the mythological era. But because the cultivation method of the god of divination was too unique, his progress was very slow. Compared to the other reincarnations of the gods, his combat power was not very strong. This also caused him to remain mysterious. Basically, it was very difficult for people to recognize him. But the players loved divination skills. It was a pity that divination skills were not effective for the chosen ones. But in the beginning, many players learned a method of divination. That was to let the god of divination predict the fortunes of hostile and friendly NPCs. The player would then decide whether to kill the NPC, follow him, or do something that would give them enough benefits. Aldrich, the god of divination, had appeared in front of the players 3 times. He had divined the fortunes of 3 players 3 times. But it was these 3 opportunities that allowed the 3 players to obtain great benefits. From then on, the god of divination became a hot commodity in the eyes of the players. But now that the prince was rich, some hidden NPCs who would suddenly give away wealth when they were in a good mood and ignore people when they were in a bad mood were no longer sought after by the players. The Dark City was conquered. Its main purpose was to expand the territory of the City of Dawn. It was also to become the front line for the City of Dawn to slay the dragons. Hence, the cities that William had seized from the Dark faction would automatically become part of his territory. This was just like how he had occupied the East Sea metropolis. The human empire could not interfere. Then in this not-so-small nightmare forest, about 1/3 of it would belong to him. In a magical world, when he developed into a neutral faction like the City of Dawn, his influence would be so great that no one would dare to offend him. He would also have many soldiers that he had nowhere to use. Then, he would not care about whether the territory was good or not, and whether the resources were abundant. The size of the territory was the most important thing. For example, the Red Fire Kingdom's development was limited and it was not close to the sea. So, he had to find ways to annex the two grand duchies to expand his power. Because no matter how barren the resources were, as long as there were people and magic, they would definitely be able to create value. There were many devil dens filled with dark creatures in Nightmare Forest. The number of magical beasts and animals was very small, but this place was rich in obsidian, black crystal, and some ordinary veins. Obsidian was a material used by magicians to create barriers and portals. As for the black crystal, it was also a material used to make altars. With these 2 points, it won't be a loss for me to maintain the operation of this city in the future. There are many devil's dens in Nightmare Forest. If there's another darkness invasion in the future, this green light city will definitely be in danger. But I have many players under me. Although they have killed enough dark creatures, it's a game. In order to become stronger, you have to kill them even if you want to vomit. More importantly, in every devil den that has not been destroyed, there will be some bosses that can be considered to be very valuable to the players. They can also use the heads of dark creatures to exchange for contribution points. This is also the key reason why the players are tempted to kill the dark creatures. Even if the players are not willing to come, some of the adventures in Nightmare Forest will also bring a lot of benefits to this supply city. William sighed. As the level of the players increased, the value of these creatures would increase. But what happened next was, it was not as easy to control the players. In the next 2 days, William summoned Old Band and asked him to build a teleportation portal that connected the City of Dawn, the East Sea Metropolis, and even the surrounding Grand Duchies. After all, the teleportation portal was the best way to develop a city. When the teleportation portal was officially completed, William's dragon-slaying plan had already begun. The first dragon that he was going to kill was a black dragon in the southern section of Nightmare Forest. The black dragons in the God's world were different from the dragon race in the DNN world. The black dragons here preferred to live in dark, hidden caves, not in the smelly bathwater. They were skilled in dark, elemental draconic magic, not spitting acid. But the black dragons seemed to possess dark elements. As they were great dragons, they would not be bewitched by darkness. They would not conspire with the dark creatures. They would even be hostile to each other. This was because the places that dark dragons liked to live in were often demon dens created by dark creatures. They could dig holes. But who had seen a great dragon dig holes by itself instead of robbing others? The black dragons had a very unique taste. They could eat magical beasts, animals, and humans. Their favorite was the underground creatures with dark elements. There was a dragon race that liked to target dark creatures. Besides the great light dragons, there was also the black dragons. Other than hiding in its nest and sleeping for a long time, the black dragon would search for demon dens that had never been discovered. Then, like a bandit, it would rush into the demon den and eat and kill indiscriminately. Skeletons, dark knights, and other meaty things tasted like crispy fries in its mouth. It was extremely delicious. The teleportation portal that led to the dark world would not be destroyed by the black dragons. As long as the greedy creatures were not completely provoked, they would not kill the goose that laid golden eggs. As long as the teleportation portal was not destroyed, after a few months or a few years, there would be a large number of dark creatures. Then, the black dragons would be able to devour another wave of dark creatures. But the black dragons were also not good creatures. They liked to kill and were very vengeful. When the dark creatures were tired of eating them, they would occasionally find a human town to change their taste. So, the black dragons were one of the main targets of the dragon-slaying team. William once again formed a dragon-slaying team. This time, there were more members. There were 8 legendary professionals, including Burn Cinder, Lautner, Diablo, and 30 epic Grandmaster professionals. They brought along 6 super heavy crossbows and 3 large magic nets made of mithril and orichalcum. It was not because the black dragon was very strong. It was because the black dragon had many orcs, trolls, and gnolls. Logically speaking, in order to deal with these people who had clans, His Royal Highness should have led the players as cannon fodder and wiped them all out in one wave. But time was tight, and the mission was important. If he used the Legion on a large scale, it would definitely attract the attention of some black dragons. He did not want others to know that he had crazily slaughtered the dragons. William decided to at least have a dragon blood legion before he thought about killing all the black dragons. It was enough for him to do it secretly. After William gave the blood dragon's crystal to Moses, their affinity for each other had increased to 999 points. Seeing the look of disbelief and excitement on Moses' face, he didn't even know what to say. From then on, no matter what scrolls the handsome young prince wanted, Moses would give him a stack of them without hesitation. So the most powerful dragon-slaying team in the southern region could sneak into the catacombs and kill the black dragons at their lair. They had dozens of invisibility and aura-shielding scrolls. It was the third day after they conquered Greenlight City. The group traveled to the south of the Nightmare Forest. The Nightmare Forest was actually a rather strange place. There was very little greenery in the forest. There was a rumor that this green forest, which was full of life, had become like this overnight because of a curse or plague hundreds of years ago. On that day, some people heard the roars of dragons, the roars of devils, and even the most terrifying sighs from the abyss. In short, it was a rumor. There would definitely be many puzzling things. But no matter what, there were some things in this forest that had not been solved. William did not know if he would be able to uncover this secret. Walking in the Nightmare Forest, one could not help but feel that the atmosphere was very oppressive. These trees were very tall, but they looked very strange. They looked like demon branches with long nails, and some trees even looked like human faces. It was very easy to cause some adventurers to feel fear. However, this situation depended on who it was. To scare William and his group, one had to be at least a realm warrior. Time passed. The group walked from noon until 10 o'clock in the evening. William calculated the time. When he was about to rest, he suddenly hid behind a tree. The others were not slow either. In the next second, they hid in different places. No one made a sound. An orc patrol team came from the front. There were 10 of them. One of the orc captains, who had a strong physique, sneakily scanned the surroundings. He wiped his saliva and said, "Quick, take out that wild boar and roast it. After eating, we'll change shifts." A young orc threw the wild boar heavily on the ground. He used his weapon to stab the boar from its anus to its mouth. He did not pluck out the hair or the intestines. He wanted to roast the boar and eat it. The other orcs were used to it. The young orc said in a muffled voice, "A group of people came to the territory. Master didn't let us walk around. He was afraid that this matter would be leaked." "Shut your mouth. What if this matter is leaked? My lord, please tell us." The other orcs were interested in gossiping. The orc captain swept a glance at the other fellows and pretended to speak in a deep voice. "This news came from the mouth of my cousin's army leader, third uncle. Don't spread it around. I heard that there's a dark magus called Madraku and a nightmare warrior called Adolf. They're both famous powerhouses in the underground world. They're planning to join hands with our master to do something big." "What big thing?" "It's related to the human kingdom." No, it seems to be related to the dark city that was attacked 2 days ago. But I drank too much that day and forgot about it." The orc captain scratched his head, taking out the wine he brought with him and drinking it in large mouthfuls. However, the orcs were a group of blabbermouths. They could not hide any secrets. The black dragon did not allow them to wander around. He understood one thing. That was, when an orc knew a secret, the entire orc tribe would know. So the best way to prevent the secret from being leaked was to not let them wander around. It was a pity. Dragons plan, but God disposes. These orcs did not know that above their heads, behind the trees beside them, there were 30 people hiding. When William heard the news, he frowned slightly. He muttered to himself, "I didn't find trouble with Medico, but he's starting to covet my Greenlight City. What's the meaning of this? Does he want to be the Lord of Greenlight? It's not impossible. After all, Medico is considered a villain. If I can capture him alive, I can use soul control to find him a wife who doesn't want to have sex with him. Then, I can give him a green halo. It's not a big deal." Of course, although he said this, the prince was filled with murderous intent again. The threat of this guy, Makamalku, was not big to him, but he loved to stir up trouble. and he especially liked to join forces with others. He was the kind of person that had to be guarded against. Now that the Greenlight City had just been occupied, many of the major environments in the city had not been figured out. William did not know how many secret tunnels there were under the city that led to this city. If he had left the southern region and led his troops to the northernmost lands, this place might really have been wiped out by someone. The mental chain was released. William used his mental strength to tell everyone to leave. He did not need to say much. The professionals present were not fools. They were all Grandmaster bosses. If they were discovered by this group of middle-level orcs, they would rather fall from the trees and die. But the situation had changed. On the contrary, William could not make up his mind. Should he find some helpers, or should he kill them directly if there were no accidents? Right now, there should only be the Black Dragon, his trusted subordinates, Adolf, Medico, and the others in the dragon's lair. They were in a meeting, and it was time to kill them all. Therefore, William did not delay any longer. He led everyone to the dragon's lair. As they got closer to the Black Dragon's lair, they would encounter more orcs and voles. It was to the point where they could no longer hide. They crushed 2 scrolls and swaggered towards the Black Dragon's lair. William narrowed his eyes. If he had guessed correctly, after he chased Medico and Adolf away from the southeastern region, they had hidden in the Dark City. In the end, before they could snatch the position of the city lord, the City of Dawn had been destroyed. Now, he was really angry, so he decided to take revenge. But I bullied you. So what? I bullied you every day. I bullied you once every version. I won't kill you. I'll make you die of anger. Chapter 379. The location of the Black Dragon's lair was obvious. It was located in the center of many clans, surrounded by tens of thousands of orcs and gnolls. It was a valley full of wither grass. This was the location of the dragon's lair. There were many guards and patrols at the entrance of the valley. Among them, there were a dozen trolls who acted as a facade. However, it was difficult for these big fellows to guard the entrance. They were the type that could fall asleep while standing. Even if the great dragon threatened them, it would only be effective for a short period of time. After all, William had once studied a dead troll. This group of big fellows was a few meters tall, but their brains were only the size of a baby's fist. Hence, in front of the guards, His Royal Highness and his men swaggered through the streets. Their footsteps were very light, so light that they were not as loud as the troll's snoring. They did not attract the attention of others. After all, the effect of the invisibility scroll was to refract light so that the enemy could not see them. The scent scroll was to prevent the group of orcs with dog noses from smelling their scent. Not long after, William and his entourage walked into the interior of the valley. The surroundings were bare stones, withered trees, and weeds. There was not a trace of green. After all, this was the devil's lair of dark creatures. It had been completely eroded by dark elements. If they did not use magic to expel these dark elements, they would have to wait for at least tens or hundreds of years for plants that could adapt to the light to grow again. As for the large hole above their heads, it was obvious that this was the entrance of the Black Dragon. However, even if they were invisible and shielded their scent, they could not avoid using battle energy when flying. Then, they would definitely expose themselves. This was also the reason why they could not fly down openly. The entrance of a dragon's lair was very large. There were only 4 tall, advanced orcs with heavy axes guarding the entrance. William used his mental strength to speak. After everyone quietly entered the dragon's lair, the last 4 subordinates attacked at the same time. The moment they exposed themselves, they covered the orc's mouth. The short swords in their hands pierced the orc's temple and directly into its brain. It was a fatal blow. As long as it was not an extraordinary creature, no matter how much health points it had, it was very difficult for NPCs and magical beasts to survive such an attack. It could be said that the higher one's realm was, the fewer fatal injuries one would suffer. Even if one's heart was heavily injured, one would still be fine. However, the brain was still the fatal weakness of many creatures. As for the so-called Beyonder creatures, they were those with special talents or perversely strong vitality. For example, The dragon race relied on dragon crystals to survive. However, this also depended on the dragon's rank. Only a dragon that was at least at the epic rank could survive with its head pierced through. He could even use the energy within the dragon crystal to slowly heal the injuries in his head. This was because an epic rank dragon could completely fuse the dragon soul into the dragon crystal. Just like epic ranked humans, harpies, and elves, they could condense various types of elemental bodies after reaching the epic rank. If an opponent of the same level couldn't find their weaknesses, it would be very difficult to kill them. After the 4 Grandmasters of the City of Dawn defeated the orc, they took off the orc's equipment and put it on themselves. They were going to pretend to be orcs for the time being. After all, this was the Black Dragon's lair. Without the Black Dragon's summons, most people wouldn't dare to come here. As William and his companions ventured deeper into the dragon's lair, they took out their scrolls and placed magic barriers at the entrance of the cave behind them, as well as some places outside the cave entrance. From this moment onwards, if the dragon-slaying incident was discovered, the 4 Grandmasters would have to face the attacks of countless dragon clans. All the devil's dens that were occupied by black dragons would undergo great changes. At the very least, the caves would become spacious and tall. This was a path that continuously extended downwards. Although the surface of the road was considered very hard, there were still many dragon footprints. There were a few magic lamps hanging on the surrounding walls, but in such a gloomy environment, there were no guards. They did not know how many meters they had walked down. When His Royal Highness was getting a little impatient, his field of vision finally opened up. He gestured for everyone to be careful, and then he walked out alone. After everyone entered the dragon lair, they discovered that there was actually a majestic underground palace inside. The prince's gaze froze for a moment. The entire palace was pitch black in color and was built entirely out of obsidian. This former devil's den was built in the obsidian or vein, because this underground space shone brightly under the illumination of the magic lamps. It was obvious that the surroundings were filled with obsidian. But this dragon's palace had many similarities with the palace of Nibelungen. Could it be that the black dragon's inherited memories are so rich? Or has he seen some ancient ruins? William stroked his chin. He knew the hiding place of the black dragon. But in his previous life, the hunting team that killed the black dragon were NPCs, not players. William knew very little about the black dragon's memories. It was good enough that he knew its approximate location. Moreover, the time when the dragon was slain was in the version of the chaos of the dragons. It was a very, very long time in the future. At that time, the black dragon had become an epic great dragon. It was extremely powerful, and the players couldn't deal with it. The door is not closed. I can see the great dragon's reflection. Are we going in now? Burned Cinder raised his eyebrows. After his experience in Nibelungen, he was traumatized by the dragon's palace. Let's go in. We're here to kill the dragon. William glanced at some of the windows in the palace. He said to the 26 Grandmaster experts, "Climb up those windows. Why give a warning, take out the giant crossbows, and shoot at the black dragon. Otherwise, if you reveal your invisibility, the black dragon will discover you very quickly." "Understood, my lord. Let's go." William waved his hand. They did not have much time left for their invisibility. They had to seize the opportunity to attack. Invisible figures spread out from all directions. They nimbly climbed up the windows of the palace. William brought Burned Cinder and the others to the side of the palace. He scanned the open door. There were no other guards. In particular, it was obvious that neither the Black Dragon nor McColl believed that someone could come all the way here for a sneak attack. He stretched out his invisible head and looked inside. Gosh, it was a large-scale ambush with hundreds of people and a black dragon. The prince gulped. The situation was not looking good. The contents were different from what he had imagined. The black dragon, which was more than 20 meters long, was coiled on its dragon throne. There were 6 pale orcs at the guru level beside it, so there was no problem here. But among the people gathered below, there were not only Madrid, Adolf, but also some Grandmaster vampires and high-level vampires. It was obvious that there were more than 20 Grandmaster professionals. Besides William's old enemies, there were also the red blood who had slipped through the net. Now, they had gathered together to take revenge on him. The prince couldn't help but perk up his ears to listen to the voice. "Ah, you want me to lead the attack on the Dark City and then hand over the city to you? You're dreaming. Not only will I anger the lord of the City of Dawn, but I will also face the attack of hundreds of thousands of soldiers from the City of Dawn. If you're still so insincere, why don't you leave?" The black dragon Sagrita used his huge eyes to glance at the people below. His eyes were full of distrust. Although he was greedy, he knew that the City of Dawn was very powerful. At least now was not the time to provoke them. "Great Lord of the Nightmare Forest, Sagrita, have you not heard of the title of Dragon Slayer?" Madrid asked. Before the black dragon could speak, he continued in a deep voice, "I believe that no one understands the mentality of the Lord of the City of Dawn better than me. He's a tyrant. He won't allow a potential threat to be near his territory. In the past, my master in the snow mountain of the East Sea was killed because the Lord of the City of Dawn sent his army. Even now, I still feel heartache." At this point, many of those who knew the truth, such as the demon knight Adolf, couldn't help but twitch their mouths. "We were the ones slaying the dragon, but someone else intercepted us. Don't you need to come up with a draft when you lie?" But the black dragon started to ponder. Although he knew that the Iron Nation army attacked first, the Dragon Slayer was still the lord of the City of Dawn. Regardless of whether the black dragon and the fire dragon were on good terms, every dragon hated the Dragon Slayer. Madrid continued to say, "Not only did he kill my former master, but he also killed a white dragon in the extreme north. He has a dragon of an unknown race at home. But this is not the most important thing. I discovered another problem." "What is it?" The black dragon could not help but ask. He did not expect William to kill two of his kind. "I don't know what the great dragon that he reared swallowed, but it turned into a 10-meter large magic egg. It seems to have entered a state of breakthrough. Can I understand that the Lord of the City of Dawn is using some evil method to kill the dragon and rear it?" Madrid said, "It was really killing people." When the black dragon Sagrita heard this, he immediately twisted his huge body and slowly climbed up. He placed his huge head in front of Madrid, and the breath of his nostrils blew on the latter's face. Madrid did not dodge. The black dragon continued to say, "Is what you said true? It's absolutely true. If there's any falsehood, I will be destroyed by the gods. Since the beginning of the Fourth Era, oaths have become the most useless nonsense in this world." The black dragon's pupils contracted slightly. Then he said, "But I've decided to believe you. But do you think that now is the time to attack Greenlight City?" "Of course not now." Mako Rico laughed wickedly. "I've heard from some sources that the elves will wage war against the beastmen of the extreme north. If there are no accidents, the current lord of the City of Dawn, as the Blackleaf Elven Prince, will definitely lead troops to war. And at that moment, that will be the weakest time for the City of Dawn. It will also be the time for us to attack the Dark City. Before we attack, I can send people to the Dark City through the tunnel and destroy the teleportation portal. I wonder if the great Lord Sagrita is confident enough to occupy this city with us? When the time comes, my friends from the Blood Race want to occupy this city. Half of the population will be your food. The other half will be given to me. What do you think?" Just as the black dragon Sagrita was about to nod, suddenly a roar sounded. "Madrid, if you don't attack now, when will you?" Everyone was shocked. Subsequently, several heavy-duty crossbow bolts emitted sonic booms. They followed a dazzling trajectory and hit the black dragon's wings and back. Roar! The black dragon roared in shock and anger. His pair of golden eyes became brighter, as if they were burning with flames. He did not hesitate and immediately unleashed his dragon's breath at Madrid and the rest. In that second, countless people were stunned. Many of the surviving vampires were stunned. Adolf suddenly clenched his fists. Many thoughts flashed through his mind. Madrid, this cunning bastard, was planning to slay the black dragon again. Everything he had said just now had been prepared to trick the black dragon. D*MN, he didn't tell me. Is he afraid that I'll spill the beans? We've cooperated so many times. But this is a black dragon. Adolf was extremely excited. He was also a darkness element professional. If he could bathe in the black dragon's blood essence, his power would increase to a new level. Of course, these people did not dare to resist the dragon's speech magic. They activated their battle energy and magic shields to dodge. But they all had one thing in common. The moment they dodged the dragon's speech magic, they attacked the black dragon and the 6 Grandmaster Orcs at the same time. After all, they were decisive people. Since they were here to negotiate, killing the black dragon was also a profitable business. But Makorku was really dumbfounded. He could not help but glance at the heavy-duty crossbow bolts above his head and the guy who had exposed himself. Wasn't this guy from the City of Dawn? I've been tricked again. I'm not here to slay the dragon. But it's too late to say anything now. Even if I tell them that the City of Dawn has arrived, the black dragon in front of me is enraged. How can I explain this to an enraged black dragon? Maka dodged the black dragon's breath without hesitation. Immediately, he turned into several black shadows and fled in all directions. For him, out of the 36 stratagems, escaping was the best. But William's Eye of Thunder had already locked onto him. This pair of Eye of Thunder had the ability to see through illusions, barriers, and phantoms. In terms of judgment, it crushed Madrid's phantoms by more than one level. At that moment, a bolt of lightning flashed. William pierced through half of the Dragon Palace. After knocking down many innocent passers-by, he arrived in front of one of the black shadows. When Madrid turned his head, he felt that his neck was completely grabbed. When he turned his head, he saw William. But William did not slow down. He extended his hand and grabbed Madrid's neck. Then, he forcefully knocked Madrid's body through the palace wall. Bang! Both of them broke through the wall. Subsequently, William viciously slammed Madrid to the ground. Bang! A huge figure appeared in a large pit. Next, another punch. Bang! Madrid did not even have time to speak. Half of his face caved in. Bang! The second punch landed. The Black Warlock's head had become a pile of minced meat. His health points were reduced to 0. An Archmage could fight a close combat king with just 2 punches. Then a soul shock wave swept in all directions. Then, William used the mental strangulation on Madrid's corpse. At this moment, William sliced Madrid's corpse into 10 pieces and stuffed them into the space ring. F***CK. I don't believe you can resurrect. If you can resurrect, it really has nothing to do with me not killing you. The prince glanced at the Dragon Palace that was still in chaos and couldn't help but smirk. Plotting against me? What a joke. Let's see who's plotting against whom. Chapter 380. It was not over for William to kill the Dark Warlock, Madrak. When he returned to the City of Dawn, he would make Moses grind Madrak's bones into ashes. The prince grinned, but just as he turned his head around, he saw something. An indescribable shock wave surged towards him. In the next moment, he flew backward for hundreds of meters and crashed heavily against the wall. The palace in front of him, which was hundreds of meters tall, exploded from the inside out. Like a mushroom cloud, flames, combat aura, and magic flew in all directions along with the broken eaves and broken walls. God knows how many unlucky people were hit by them. In the midst of the endless black flames, there was a black dragon covered in blood. He extended his hideous head and spewed dragon breath in all directions. The dragon's might was unparalleled. At this moment, this black dragon was like a dragon king. The black dragon breath that was hundreds of meters long covered the sky and earth. When he turned his head, it burned every inch of the air and space. No one could avoid it. In just a few seconds, a quarter of the unlucky souls screamed and died tragically under the black torrent. After the black dragon breath, apart from a few armors and weapons that were left behind, not even their bones were left behind. The scene was full of destruction. There was also a corrosive black aura everywhere. William raised his head and looked at the black dragon in disbelief. Sagrita's body length suddenly increased by tens of meters. He was an adult black dragon who was half a step away from reaching the epic level. He had been hiding his strength just now. D*MN. The prince gritted his teeth. The Black Dragon's sudden transformation had caused the death of several epic bosses in the City of Dawn. But he did not have much to say. It was normal to slay a dragon and be killed by a dragon. Those who were not him would definitely have different intentions. He would just kill them. He unsheathed his long sword and charged at the huge dragon that had rushed out of the flames. At the same time, Burn Cinder and the rest went to deal with those who wanted to escape. They prevented them from escaping and attracting the reinforcements of the Black Dragon clan. This time, he wanted to kill everyone in the dragon's lair. After all, the bounty hunter Adolf and the vampires had just fought to the death with the Dark Dragon, causing more than half of them to be dead or injured. Those who were not dead were also injured. Now was the time to get rid of them. Therefore, the situation suddenly changed. Many vampires and bounty hunters had just escaped from the Black Dragon's mouth when they were attacked by Burn Cinder and the rest. The City of Dawn's 7 legendary bosses and more than 10 epic bosses attacked at the same time. Except for a few Grandmaster professionals who blocked the attack, the advanced professionals who were killed were instantly decapitated and died without a whole corpse. Sagrita slowly walked out of the flames. He glanced at William, who was charging at him, and turned his head to bite off the heavy arrow that was stuck in his body. When he turned back, half of the heavy arrow, which was stained with dragon blood, shot out from his mouth towards William. However, the prince did not dodge at all. He gripped the sword of curse tightly and flicked his wrist upwards. Swoosh! The blade of the sword and the tip of the arrow collided. The heavy arrow, which was filled with boundless power, could only be split into two by William's sword. The arrow flew past him from both sides, and with the sound of air exploding, it landed heavily on the wall, the end deeply embedded. In the next moment, the ground around William started to sink. His body instantly appeared above the Dark Dragon's head. His sword energy pierced through the sun, accompanied by countless lightning bolts, and heavily struck the Dark Dragon's head. Bang! Countless thunder battle energy and dragon-scale fragments scattered on ground. The Black Dragon didn't dodge at all. He used his dragon horn to forcibly block the sword. Even though the sword had almost chopped off half of his dragon horn, even though his entire body was covered in lightning, it still didn't cause him much harm. After that, he heavily slammed his right dragon claw on the ground. Boom! Like a tidal wave, dark elements rose from the depths of the ground. In this underground space that was filled with dark elements, countless dark elements filled the entire ruins of the Dragon Palace in a short period of time. They covered the battlefield between the two of them. Both of them were completely surrounded. William felt that his body was surrounded by dark elements. On the information panel, negative buffs such as battle energy recovery speed, movement speed, and attack power were continuously displayed. It was another fake domain. But His Royal Highness was calm and composed. His body was surrounded by the power of thunder. He did not take it too seriously, because he was no longer the same as before. Just like in the extreme north, he had the body of thunder and the body of diamond, which could reduce many negative buffs. Therefore, even if the dark dragon swung its tail at him, he could still nimbly turn his body to avoid it. He stomped on the air and used the momentum to get to the back of the dark dragon. He used the light of dawn on his sword and slashed down with all his might. Swish! The sword of thunder, which was tens of meters long, fell from the sky and pierced deeply into the back of the dark dragon. The huge dark dragon suddenly collapsed on the ground. He felt that his spine was about to break. However, he was a dark dragon. He was a great dragon. He was the top super creature in the God's continent. Dragon speech magic. Dark imprisonment. Bang! Countless black energy formed hands and trapped William. His physical strength and strength failed. Subsequently, the dark dragon, which was tens of meters long, kept rolling. The dark dragon disregarded his own wings and caused William to lose tens of thousands of health points. After all, he was crushed by the dark dragon's weight. He was a half-elf who was less than 2 meters tall. The dark dragon was surprised that he was not crushed into meat paste. He even started to suspect that William had dragon blood. Otherwise, how could his skin be so thick? William would definitely not tell him that his endowment made him weaker than the shield bearers. It was not easy for him to escape from the dragon's speech magic. Just as he was about to retreat, a black figure appeared in front of him again. The dark dragon lifted his sword to block. Boom! The dark dragon swung its tail. William was once again smashed into the wall like a cannonball. The violent dark dragon did not stop. He extended his claws and crushed the wall as if it was tofu. He wanted to crush William to death. But William's reaction was faster. A second before the dragon's claws touched his body, he appeared in front of the dark dragon with the power of thunder. He punched with lightning. It was an uppercut. Bang! Countless lightning bolts struck the dragon's jaws hundreds of meters into the sky. When they hit the ceiling, they spread out like a spider web and turned into countless lightning bolts that flowed in the air. It was extremely dazzling. The scales on this gigantic dragon's chin fell off one by one. It raised its head and fell to the ground with a loud bang. But before William could attack again, roar! Another roar was heard. The sound waves penetrated all directions. The wave-like black rock elements constantly eroded William's body, making it difficult for him to move an inch in this area. Every step he took was extremely difficult. He was like a camel walking in a sandstorm, wishing to drill into the sand to avoid the damage in front of him. But it was not over yet. Dragons' speech magic. Dark swords, countless sharp swords made of dark elements, formed a sword formation. Then, they engulfed William in an overwhelming manner. Hundreds, thousands of swords. William could not detect them. He immediately activated his sacred light shield. Tens of small shields covered his entire body. A series of crackling and banging noises could be heard. A few seconds later, only a few of William's super protective ultimate skills were left after being pierced through. His body was full of wounds, and his rune armor was on the verge of shattering. But his health points were still above 60%. The black dragon could not believe it. This move was definitely considered half a dragon's speech forbidden spell. It did not make sense that it could break William's shield but not cause any damage. William wanted to say that when the dark swords penetrated the shield and caused damage, the passive ability of the Heart of Thunder would take effect. His health points would be restored by 2%. As long as it was not a single target forbidden spell, it was not a fatal injury to the black dragon. William was afraid that the rune armor would be completely destroyed, so he kept it in his body, revealing his perfect upper body. This made the dragon even angrier. William transformed into lightning again and charged at the black dragon. It was a pity it was another dragon's speech magic. The might of the Dragon King. The authentication of physical strength, and agility failed. Bang! William was pressed to the ground by an indescribable force. He even knelt on the ground. The prince could not believe his eyes when he landed on the ground. The might of the Dragon King was not an ordinary dragon's speech magic. Anyone who could obtain this dragon's speech magic had to be related to the Dragon King. It could even be said that the Black Dragon had obtained the inheritance of the Black Dragon King. But William did not have time to think. The Black Dragon took the opportunity to spit out dragon's breath. He wanted to turn William into ashes. Countless corrosive dark elements came at him. William clenched his fists. It was the embodiment of holy thunder. The authentication of the might of the Dragon King had failed. His entire body transformed into a shadow of golden lightning. It was the embodiment of golden lightning. William ran amidst the dark dragon's breath. Subsequently, he dashed into the black dragon's mouth at a speed that was unimaginable to the black dragon. The moment the dragon's breath stopped, a heavy punch landed on the black dragon's throat. Bang! Endless lightning spewed out from the black dragon's cavity like Godzilla's atomic breath. A bulge appeared on the black dragon's neck. Fresh blood and lightning seeped out continuously. The dragon's breath suddenly stopped. Next, a lightning strike was added to the destructive sword energy of the Sword of Hegni. Hence, there was a loud boom. Countless strands of sword chi exploded in his body. Blood seeped out from the black dragon's scales, eyes, nose, ears, and every crevice. Arg! A sorrowful cry could be heard. The black dragon could not imagine that someone could forcefully enter his mouth while he was spitting out dragon's breath. But he could not imagine where William had learned the embodiment of holy lightning. Because his golden eyes were slowly losing their glow, his thoughts were slowing down. His soul, which had not been completely absorbed into the dragon crystal, was slowly dissolving until the black dragon's tall and majestic body fell to the ground in a crooked manner. Rumble. The tremors of the earth spread in all directions. The false domain dissipated. The dense black elements gradually dissipated. The other fellows who were still fighting looked at the prince, who once again had no hair and no clothes on his upper body. He slowly opened the black dragon's mouth and walked out of it. That strong body, that bloodstained body, his body, which was full of power, appeared in everyone's line of sight at this moment. At this moment, William held the sword of Hegni, which was dripping with blood. He raised his head and walked out. He was like a dragon slayer in a legendary story. He had slain a dragon by himself. He glanced at Adolf and the other vampires. Without any expression, he kept the bleeding black dragon in his space ring. William looked at Burn Cinder and the rest of the vampires, who had completely blocked the exit. He smiled. "Oh, are you trying to escape?" Adolf's mouth twitched. He looked at the formation of both sides, and then at the Lord of the City of Dawn, who had just slain a dragon. He threw the legendary sword in his hand to the ground. Then, with a mournful expression, he ran to the prince and knelt down. As he cried, he hugged his thigh and shook it. "Your Highness, I was wrong. I deserved to die. But I was bewitched by Madri Ku and the group of vampires. I used to be an excellent professional, and I used to be an excellent mercenary. Please don't kill me." William tried to move his leg, but it did not move. It had to be said, Adolf's strength was not bad. It was quite strong. But the prince did not notice that Adolf was trying his best to collect the dragon's blood on the ground and on his body. Just as William was looking at the remaining 20 vampires, a voice suddenly rang out. One of the Grandmaster vampires, who was covered in wounds, suddenly laughed at himself. Subsequently, he licked the blood on his long sword and charged at William and the rest with an indomitable aura. The other vampires did the same. Adolf, a bounty hunter, could surrender. But what about them? They were mortal enemies. Rather than being sold as slaves and being tortured in the future, they would rather be like real warriors. They would rather be like real warriors and die under the enemy's blade. After all, they had lived humiliated lives in the human world. They had enjoyed it, been disliked, and had been abused. They had also abused others. But he had really had enough of this never-ending life. The battle at the Black Dragon's lair. It was not the most thrilling battle in William's life, but it was definitely the most satisfying battle he had ever fought. Not only did the slaying of the dragon give him a large amount of experience points, but he also obtained the legendary bootlicker, Adolf. That was right. The prince decided to spare Adolf's life. After all, Adolf had evolved from an epic bloodline to a legendary bloodline. Naturally, he had extraordinary abilities. If he could control Adolf well, he could be of use to William. Moreover, the 10-year blood battle was about to begin. It was a good idea to let Adolf be the vanguard at the same time. He also obtained an instance dungeon crystal. But this instance dungeon crystal was for the players to die. Basically, he wouldn't be able to make a lot of money, but he still had to release what he could. If he could make a profit, he would. His Royal Highness would never do anything that would cause him to lose money. However, none of the above was the most important thing. The key was a secret within the Black Dragon's lair. It was a secret regarding the destruction of the Nightmare Forest and an ancient mystery realm.